Hey, this is John Carlos, and we're here with another episode of Movies Worth Talking About with special guest
Eddie!
Eddie. We're here to talk Gremlins too, man.
Yeah, we
Um,
are.
the movie that uh, I don't know if you remember, but back in summer of '94 is when we met.
Yeah.
For
Yes.
for folks at home, I hope you remember. You don't remember. No, but we long story short, we were children and we were actor children, and we did a show in Russia.
Mhm.
And I forget, we were walking around somewhere, but we were getting to know each other. And oh, do you like this? Well, I like that. Animaniacs, yay, you know. And
Mhm.
somehow we got on the subject of Gremlins too. And
I don't remember this.
the discussion then will be nothing like the discussion now.
Oh dear.
But I do remember sharing with you the this is the only part of the conversation I remember, was that even though the movie is not scary, it's very much a comedy, but the idea of the Bat Gremlin having
Oh.
sun protection and attacking Murray in the daylight really
Uh-huh.
bothered me. Like that was
Yeah.
there was a scary notion to me, and you were like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah." Shit. Like as a kid, that fucked me up 4 years later, mind you. But I'm like, that shit really bothered me,
Right.
and to a certain degree, it still does.
The discussion is going to be different.
In fact, I'm sure we'll get into specifics later, but since we're on the subject, I'm just going to say this now. The little thing about it that bothers me
Okay.
now when I watch it is that when Murray, there's like a tracking shot, there's a lot of close ups of like its feet and him going, but there's a shot of Murray walking across as it's like, composited in above him. And it's all
Yeah.
the other New Yorkers that are either walking by and not giving a shit, or the ones that do and kind of acknowledge it, and they're moderately kind of like, ugh. And I'm like, there's a terrifying creature clawing at this dude, and you see the blood, and this poor guy is surrounded by no one who gives a fuck. And
One guy he stumbles into, even looks at him like, "What the fuck, fucker," and then keeps walking.
which, I mean, that's tapping into a very specific fear for me, which is attacks and violence in the daytime, because it's supposed to be
Yeah.
safe. And Gremlins specifically, like, we write them so they can only kind of attack you at night. You're safe in sunlight, and all of a sudden you're not. And also this idea of being in a public area and still not being safe with citizens and stuff is just unsettling to me. You think safety in numbers, and it's like, no, fuck you, you're not. And I know part of that, I don't know if the movie's making a statement the way so many movies, especially in the 80s and early 90s, that statement of like, New Yorkers, they don't give, they're rude, they don't give a shit,
So not my experience.
Yeah,
So not my experience.
well,
Yeah.
I also didn't. I went to. It doesn't count. I went to New York in 1997, and it was not my experience. But I've been
Mhm.
to New York many, many times over my 20s and 30s, countless times. I literally have lost count, and I find New Yorkers generally be fucking super dope people.
Yeah.
But I also
They
never.
don't they don't walk too slow. I love the pace they keep. It's like, okay, I can walk at a comfortable
Yeah.
pace finally. Yeah.
No, but it's actually, I find like the opposite. Like, I love just walking into like a bodega or just like a liquor store. I remember wanting to just buy like a bottle of water. Like the dude behind the counter was like, "Hey, bud, how you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm pretty good, thanks, man. Bye, fuck off." Like, it's just like, hey, people. I
Yeah.
think people, they're friendlier in my opinion.
Totally.
Very
That's
casual
my
friendliness.
absolutely my experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've never had one of those rude New
me
Yorker
neither.
moments at all.
However, I never went to New York in the 80s. I never got to go to old 42nd Street with all the strip clubs and all the dirty movie theaters.
Right. Before it got Disney-fied, right.
Right. I didn't get to go to the yeah. We're literally like Warner Brothers and Disney were buying up 42nd Street and shit. So it's changed.
Sure, but the movie even contradicts its own. If that's the impetus that it's trying to like put forward,
I don't think it is what I'm getting.
Yeah, I don't either. Because in the very next shot, like mere seconds later, when he finally, when Murray, and I called him on a number of occasions in our last pod, I called him Dan Futterman. Who is an actor screenwriter. You never clocked it. But I was just rewatching just to kind of get a feel like, what did we talk about? Because it's been a while. it's almost 3 hour pod. But so I just watched it and I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, Dan Futterman. No, that's an actor. That's an actor slash screenwriter. He wrote for In Treatment. He was in The Birdcage. He was in one of my favorite thrillers, Urbania. So I just want to say, I know his name is Murray. If anybody was going, Eddie's an idiot. I am, but I am apologizing. I'm making amends today. But anyway, Murray, when he finally gets the cement mixer and everything, all of a sudden there's like a Gotham City crowd,
yes,
like a hubbub, and everybody's going, oh, just because finally I almost want to,
because they don't have to help anymore.
yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I want to tell myself it's because now they're watching somebody actually handle it. So now it's street theater,
Yep.
So yeah, I agree. Also, that leads me into a huge thing that I never had with the movie before today. When I watched for our purposes, I never thought about this before.
Okay.
The brainy gremlin takes the genetic sunblock, puts it in the bat gremlin goes out, and creepy. Okay. There is a huge vat of genetic sunblock from which he pulls out into the syringe. Room full of gremlins, building full of gremlins, and yet the rest of the movie hinges on the plot device that they're waiting for it to get dark outside. Yep. You have genetic sunblock. You're a brain gremlin. Get it. Jesus. I never thought about it until today, and I was just like, that is huge.
I admire your passion because I had that before today. Yes.
Okay. When did you have it?
Like 10 or 15 years ago. I was like,
oh fuck.
Wait a minute. Why? I mean, I get it, he can fly, but like, why not give it to yourself and some of the other? It's not just for the one. You could give it to others. You don't have enough for hundreds. But why just him? I mean, there's not a story reason behind it, but there's an excuse. But let me just say, like, the idea was that they wrote it with the bat gremlin going outside, and they're like, wait a minute, it's fucking daytime. Shit. How about there's a fucking sunblock thing? All right, quick, right there's a sunblock thing.
Like, ooh, that's creepy, and then never saw
right.
it
So they write the
end.
sunblock thing as the excuse for the bat, but they don't think about the implications of that going forward with the rest of the script. They just wrote it as a fix for getting the bat outside.
Because I'm also thinking, like, with the very, very 2021 eyes now about just like universal logic, within the framework, and it's like, well, okay, so if those injected gremlins, if they did get however many they got with the sunblock, and those gremlins got wet, would the gremlins they make, not be allergic to sun anymore?
It's gene splicing, so I think it's altering their DNA.
It changes your DNA, yeah, totally. So so now I'm just like, where's my army of day gremlins?
Now, if anything, exactly. If anything, what you would need to do if you cared enough, and I'm not saying they didn't, because it's also a very loosey-goosey movie.
Yes, totally. Oh my God.
The fact that we're even we shouldn't be thinking about this that much, but
that's true. It's true.
The movie's tone is not like that. However,
no, it is not.
If you cared enough, you can go. But they could have gone back for reshoots, because I know they did for little quick pickups. You do 2 quick shots of like a gremlin knocking over the sunblock, and then it crashing, and then like the brain gremlin be like, Mrr. So now you can't do it anymore,
And there's like 20 some minutes of deleted footage that you can watch on the Blue with or without commentary. And it's some really, like, some things that I'm just kind of like, well, that would have been great if that had been left. But I understand pacing and everything like that. But I do have to say, I remember seeing this in the theater when I was 10. I remember it was one of those movies I was so fucking excited to see. And it really, like, my movie nerd brain went like full throttle on this, because I knew there needed to be new Mogwai and everything like that. And I remember but they were also really careful with what they showed. Like there was one trailer, it was the trailer where it was just like water and they were just, it was just a voiceover and everything.
Yeah.
And then just a few, and then it was gone. So, you know, for my little 10-year-old brain, I'm just gonna like, what? I didn't see anything. I'm just gonna like, oh, it's coming. But I, you know, because I was an idiot. But it's, I remember when I finally got to see one that broke it down a little bit more. It was, and it's, I think it's in the, one of the takes is in the deleted footage where Clamp is getting into the gear that he took from one of the like, yeah, what are they,
The SWAT guys.
the SWAT guys, one of the SWAT team like outfits and everything. And he's going like, okay, guys, first rule, you know, no, they're or something. First rule, they're allergic to bright light. Second rule, you know, don't get them wet. And the third is what was the third one? And it's just like, and then and everything. And it was amazing. I was so excited because I'm just kind of like, oh, we're talking the rules and they're gonna come back. But I remember the one other thing I saw before going in was footage from a review. And it was when Zach Galligan comes home, Billy comes home, and Kate has already brought home the wrong Mogwai, and Daffy's being Daffy. And he squeezes, and he's just like, he's like, where'd you get this guy? She's like, in your office, like you said. He's like, this is not Gizmo. And then he squeezes the Twinkie in his face. And I only got like a second glimpse, a second worth, you know, 1 second glimpse of the Mogwai go with a, hey, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know who it was, but it was laughing, and it kind of sounded maniacal, and it scared me a little bit, my little 10-year-old brain. And also, I didn't really get a good look at him, but I saw like white tufts like around his ears and on top of his head. So I thought he was old. So I thought, is there like an old, maniacal, wide-eyed Mogwai who they think is Gizmo? Oh my God, what is this movie gonna be? Like, you know, like, because I just terrified me. So this was one of those movies where when it started, I was like, I'm enwrapped. I need to know what this is, and I just ate it up. I was especially fascinated with, I drew them all the time, the Mogwai that grew, that birthed out of Gizmo. Just their design, the fact that they were sporting different pelt colors, and that they all had like kind of distinct personalities of the faces, and even in their ears. Like, it was like, because all the other ones besides Stripe in the first movie were pretty, you know, I mean, they didn't all look exactly alike, but I didn't know which one from which enough. From scene to scene. Exactly. But I didn't know them well enough to like know them, you know, from scene to scene. Oh, that Mogwai I'm following, except for Gizmo and for Stripe. This one, I was just like, it just awoke my attention, and just like my enthusiasm. All I wanted to do was just like look at them and memorize their structure and just draw them. I don't know why.
And what's great is not just visually, which is obviously very distinct designs, but also audio. That the fact that between George and Lenny,
oh yeah,
like Lenny's like, like they have very distinct. You can close your eyes, and if you listen to like George's grumble,
yeah,
Daffy's laughing, you know exactly who they are.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, first of all, when you're talking about like not knowing, wonder if they're old gremlins, don't you miss? I miss when we were children, there was no internet.
Yeah.
So you read, sometimes you found out a movie existed when you saw an ad for it. You're like, wait, what?
Exactly.
And then you started, like, I remember when like Cinescape came out. There was a magazine. It was made by people who did EGM, Electronic Gaming Monthly, for all you 80s gamers out there and 90s gamers. And Cinescape was like a movie magazine, not quite Entertainment Weekly. It was more just like sci-fi, fantasy, and horror kind of nerd shit.
Yeah.
And I remember you would find out about movies if you read an article that they announced they're going to do Gremlins 2, you know.
Sure.
Your little children's scholastic magazines, you know, Ninja Turtles 2 is happening, blah, blah, blah. But you didn't have not just the trailer, but like 50 different clips that the studio's using to promote it. There's no spoiler culture. You didn't fucking know what was going to be happening in that movie until you went.
Yeah.
So I love that mystery of going to a movie.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I don't watch trailers now.
Yeah, I've slowly become like, I'll watch the first trailer for a movie, but I try not to watch the second and third.
If I know for sure I'm going to watch it, I will try to avoid the first one. Back when we could safely, I mean, I guess safely is kind of like a relative term depending on where you are, but I'll just put it, I don't feel safe in movie theaters right still. But
Oh,
yeah. But when I would sit safely in a movie theater and feel safe, because trailers these days, yeah, they're basically after a certain point, it is basically like you're basically giving the movie away. I
yeah.
don't need to know this much. The ticket is bought. So I have taken to, when I go see like a big mainstream, like tentpole movie that I know is going to have other movies that I'm already going to go see. I don't need the trailer. I will look down
I
and
do.
just,
I do
yeah,
that
and
too.
just listen and just go, oh, that's interesting. And then I'll hear people go, "Wah!" And I'll be like, I don't know what just happened.
Yep.
Good, good.
I remember, and I've still never seen it, but I know that the final trailer for like War for the Planet of the Apes showed a lot. I remember every time that I like looked down at my popcorn, and I would even like munch on my popcorn, like la 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 la, and slurp on my soda. Don't want to hear anything.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I mean, every few years, ever since like through my teens and 20s, there's always someone older than me saying, "I don't like trailers now; they show too much." And I'm like, "Fuck you, no, they don't." But I eventually reached a point. I don't think it's my age. I do think trailers do, even more so now. They are trying to get you to come. This is what you are going to see. Look at this
Yeah,
juicy shit that will be in the movie. And
yeah.
I think the last straw for me, I remember it was the trailer for like Thor Ragnarok that like showed, spoiler alert,
Oh,
but like, it showed the Rainbow Bridge, and it showed like Loki and Thor and Valkyrie like on the bridge fighting at the end. I'm
yeah.
like, I don't, now I know that Loki and them, like, fuck this. Like, like I don't need to watch trailers. I'm gonna see every Marvel movie, so no more Marvel
Yeah,
trailers.
exactly.
If they're gonna be like Ragnarok, I don't need the climax of the movie ruined for me.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and this is, a controversial point for you and I, but I remember feeling that prior to BVS when I went to go see a movie, and they had the third trailer that they had released for Batman v Superman, and out comes Doomsday.
Mm.
And I didn't have my technique in place yet. This was just 5 years ago. So I didn't know, just to like not, but even then I would have heard like, what have you done? And I would have been like, wait a minute, what? And I would have
Yeah.
heard Lex Luthor going, you're a Doomsday. And I would have been like, Doomsday's in the movie. So it wouldn't have worked. But if I just
I
looked
mean,
down,
have you
but
seen? Side note, we'll get back to Gremlins 2 in a moment. Have you seen
yeah,
Godzilla versus Kong yet?
no, I have not. And I saw one trailer, got me really, really amped up. I know people are discussing things, and I'm not even going to address them.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm not gonna get into it, but for those of you who have seen it, like there's two shots in that first trailer where I'm like, oh well, that happens.
Right.
How about just, and it's these two quick shots. I mean, how about you just don't put them in the trailer and let us all enjoy it? Like, why? I don't know.
Yeah, go see the movie. But
Yeah.
maybe they're just so terrified that people won't, that yeah, it doesn't make any sense to me. But then again, like big studios decisions of late haven't made sense to me for a long time. Like
That's
I
true.
have to be so much less precious with movies these days than I was. Like
Mhm.
I don't even get excited before I go because I don't want. That's the thing, is I didn't think about that as a kid. I didn't think, wow, I'm really building up Gremlins 2 in my head. Like I hope I'm not disappointed. You could not talk to me and tell me, like, you might have. I'm like, no, it's Gremlins 2. It's Gizmo's back. I've been waiting for 6 years, and it finally happened. It's like a miracle, and that's how much it meant to me. and
Wow.
and when it happened, I remember there were people who didn't like it, and I was just like, you're dumb. Because even as a kid, I was just like, you're dumb. Fine, more for me. The same way,
Uh,
like people left. I remember Adam's Family Values got mixed reviews, and I was just kind of like,
oh my
for
God, so
what?
fucking
I
good.
was, yeah. It's
What what
so
an
fuck
excellent
you. More for
sequel.
me. More for
What
me.
an excellent sequel. I
Yeah.
remember I wasn't as hyped as you were, but I definitely wanted to go. And here's one of the little things I also miss. We still do it to a certain degree, that a lot of times the title, font, and logo used in the trailer is not what's used in the film. And I love,
Ah.
however, I miss in the 80s and 90s and even the early 2000s where usually the title treatment used in the trailer is just so much better. And I'll never forget Gremlins 2 with like Gizmo hanging on to like the two little feet. Like that, just that logo got me so hyped where I'm like, oh, because it's like an actual photographed puppet like hanging on.
And there was another one in another commercial, I believe, where it was just him dancing on top of it, like on top of Gremlins 2. And
that, yeah.
Well, whatever it is, I'll take it. Yes.
All that hyped me, I just remember the brain gremlin going, was that civilized? No, clearly not. Like, and it just cut off. What, he talks and something uncivilized is happening. I got to see this movie.
I was just like, it's going to be off the hook. And I was right. It certainly is.
Yeah. Here's my somewhat mildly embarrassing story. There's a thing where like you were very much a child. And then you get a little bit older and I think like you're a kid. You're a little more aware of things. And then there's that little crossover point, that little Peter Pan age at Wendy when you're not quite a child and you're about to become older. And I remember the moment when I saw it with my dad, and it was at a night. I remember I felt so cool because I'm seeing a movie at night. None of this matinee shit for kids. Like the sun had set, I was seeing in the evening, and the theater was full of like adults. And the projector moment happens.
Yes.
And then the film rips, and it's white, and everyone in the theater bought it.
Yeah. Me too.
And then the little silhouette of the gremlin ears picked up. And the fact that everyone in the theater wasn't panicking, I was like, I know this is part of the movie. I'm 9. I'm not stupid, but I'm also like, and then here's the problem. After just a few seconds, my brain went, oh, but what if? And I made the mistake of thinking, oh, what? And I said out loud to my dad, loud enough for multiple people in the theater to hear. I'm like, wait, are there really gremlins in the theater? And everyone started laughing at me. And I instantly felt like the dumbest fucking kid. I'm like, you moron.
That is fucking adorable.
Like, I believed it for a second. And I feel like if I was maybe like 1 year older, that wouldn't have happened.
Oh, that's so sweet. You were so cute. My first movie, I had an experience where I made the entire theater laugh, but it wasn't, it's not even a story. It's just, my first movie I ever saw was E.T. And it was the moment where Drew Barrymore dresses E.T. up, and brings him out. The second the reveal happened, he was like, oh God. I'm like, it's Piggy. And I made the entire theater erupt laughing because I was what, 3, 4? I don't even know how fucking old I was, but yeah.
Well, it depends, because like I know it was released, I think, in 82, but that had like some longevity, and I think there was like a re-release.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember it. My parents had told me the story, so I don't even remember doing that. But yeah, so sorry, I'm just trying to offer some camaraderie.
I'll never forget. I remember I made people laugh. The first time I made people laugh was Back to the Future. And we saw it within the first year or so of its release. So I'm only like 5, maybe 6 years old. But when Doc gets down to the ground at the climax, grabs the two things, plugs them in, the electricity goes. Right when the time machine like disappears and it's silent for a second, all I know is I saw an old man get electrocuted. So right quiet, I just went, is he dead? And again, everyone in the theater laughed at me.
That's awesome.
I'm like, why is this fucking funny? Do you see that dude touch? He touched electricity. And I know that's bad.
See, and
both produced by Spielberg. So thank you, Spielberg.
Right? Yeah. No, all I thought was he was wearing gloves, so they protected him. I think I still think that. I'm like, he's wearing gloves, so it's okay. It's 80s logic. But no, it's interesting. I'm glad you brought up Back to the Future though, because that's another thing on this line. Like, I think that's the most exposure I ever had to a movie before I went in, was the little preview at the end of 2 of 3. That's the most
God, the
I've
hype
ever.
Was so fucking real.
Yeah, the most.
Oh my God.
Of any insight I've ever had, like going into like another movie, I was just kind of like, oh, it's going to be the Old West, and looks like they're going to be shooting and riding horses and trying to make the DeLorean go. I mean, yeah.
When you see Doc and Marty hug, I was like, oh, they reunite. I didn't,
Yeah.
there wasn't spoiler, it was just hyping me. And when it showed the two
No,
of them
yeah,
standing
exactly.
by the clock and the picture goes off and the title, like, dude, my nipples are so hard.
I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just
Yeah.
talking about it. So yeah, and Gremlins 2, it was a similar thing. It was just like I remember once the movie started, that was one of those things. I think Jurassic Park might be one of the last experiences I had with this kind of purity going into the movies and just kind of knowing it's gonna be great. And Gremlins 2 was the same thing, where I just kind of sit there and I was like, oh, it's starting. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't
Okay,
have
you
that,
know,
and I'm glad you did.
yeah, no, I totally. So then so then I remember. Oh, okay. Let's talk about the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so the false open with the cartoon. I remember thinking,
Instantly
yeah,
setting
I'm
you.
just like, what? Huh? And I even so much so that I remember when the title finally came up, he was like, action or whatever he
He's
says,
like,
and he
roll up.
spins,
Yeah.
roll them, yeah. And then up those Gremlins 2, and then the screen starts blocking out. And then we get the Superman 4 footage,
Mhm.
but which I didn't know. Now I can't not see
So
Superman
yeah.
4 when I look at it. But because even like the definition like of the picture, I'm just kind of like, yeah, it doesn't look like Gremlins 2 at all. Anyway, so but when that happened and you got the title, I remember I thought it wasn't on screen long enough. So it'll be the title will come back. Like they'll show it again, like Gremlins. It was that epic to me. I was like, this is like the next chapter in the Gremlins, like Lord of the Rings or something like that. It was
Wow.
huge for me. So I
Look,
was just kind of like, and then when the movie started, I was just like, well, then they'll do it again at the end. I don't know. I was tripped up. I was like, this isn't. Give me the Gremlins, the
the
Batman
Batman
Returns,
Returns.
Gremlins too, but I got that with Batman Returns, like 2 years later, but or the next year,
And you wanted your Lion King beat at the end. Gremlins
I
2.
did. I totally did. That's how you give me a title. That's a movie. But I remember even seeing it was so weird because I remember hearing him sing and hearing Mr. Wing, like, as he's watching television. I think I must have had like a kind of expression on my face while I was watching that whole thing. And I remember hearing my mother. I can always credit both my parents for giving me also like feeding that kind of believability, like that kind of like no matter what you're watching, like, oh, that's not right. Even if it's like, because when they start demolishing Mr. Wing's store, I remember my mom just saying out loud, like, all those antiques, that's not right. Like, I mean, we're on the side of humanity in this family, and you don't go just busting through, you big corporate motherfucker. Like, I mean, she was feeding the flames of like, this fanboy morality that I carry with me to this day. I try, but yeah. So that's my entry into the film. Like, do you have anything?
No, well, here's the thing. I saw the movie and shit my pants, loved it. I didn't come
Yeah,
in with the same level of hype the way you did. I
right.
just thought this is going to be fun. I liked the first movie. I remember like I had a little sticker set and I put all the stickers from Gremlins on my cassette case, my little case with all your tapes that you would listen to. And that was in my
Yeah.
Gremlins tape case. So like I was on board with Gremlins. I was definitely ready for a sequel. But I had no expectations. I just knew it looked fun. And then what I
Mm.
wasn't prepared for was like it's opening with fucking Bugs Bunny, and I feel like a lot of people were like, he. I think it's pretty much it's like it's serving a purpose, which is to like go, this is not what you think it's gonna fucking be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I was instantly hyped also because the comfort your child, and all of a sudden Bugs Bunny's here,
Yeah. Totally.
and
I could
having
still get happy about that. It's like Saturday
and it
morning
and it
cartoon. Yeah.
wasn't a cartoon with its own narrative. It was like it was beyond the movie. It was a part of the movie. It was so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was
Thematically. Yeah.
I don't have a lot of baggage coming into it, but I will tell you if going off of you mentioned the opening with Mr. Wang.
Yeah.
There's little things in this movie that I did not pick up on as a kid. That you get older, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like, here's a thing that hits me like a ton of bricks now.
Mm.
If you go back to our discussion of the first movie and the idea of Kingston Falls representing America, you were
Yeah.
talking about,
Yeah.
and we were just talking about like economics, and you brought up this guest or the podcast. I was reading the article of somebody
Yes.
who thought that there's a lot of fear of the Chinese and the red communism, and unpacking all that in our last video.
Right.
So if you're going through that kind of prism of American exceptionalism versus their misunderstanding or their bad judgment of Asian culture, putting it on Front Street with Forster and Clamp, where they come in, because you turn on this video and Clamp goes, well, yeah, because my Clamp Chinatown Center, where business gets oriented. Oh my fucking God. When I'm 9, when I'm 12, it's just a line. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I'm just paying attention to his smugness.
When I'm 20, when I'm 30, when I'm 40, holy shit. But that G, he doesn't know he's being shitty. That's what's so interesting. It's just, he thinks it's a good phrase. And now when I look at Mr. Wing going, like, oh, I fucking get it, Mr. Wing. Where business gets that grunt, that eye roll, that's the right reaction.
Well, because I remember even as a kid like that. Oh, sorry, go on. Yeah.
But also the 1-2 punch for me, it's the same scene.
Yeah.
Mr. Wing says something about, finding something in others, or, seeing the truth in yourself. And Forster's like, oh, yeah, that's interesting or amusing or insightful. Confucius or Bruce Lee? Fuck you. Oh my God.
Totally.
You say that to his face? Fuck. Instantly. Immediately, to me, it makes Forster the villain of the movie.
Yeah, it's
in a weird way. Because it's interesting because you watch the movie. God, there's so much to fucking say on this movie.
Yeah,
I'll say this now though. I watched the movie so many times as a child, so many times as a teen. I haven't watched it so many times even in my 20s. I haven't watched the movie in about 5 years.
Oh,
it's a long time for me for this movie because I feel like I've probably seen it like over 100 times.
Yeah.
But in my memory, I recall so much of the anarchy spirit of the movie, the zaniness, the balls outness. I forgot until watching this one, actually, like how also structured the story is, how much there is like a first act and we set up these characters and all their wants, like everything kind of pays off and things that happen here affect act. Like it's actually a very tight story and not just the dismissal of a story for going for some balls out zaniness. And actually you could cut out the zany and you actually have a really compelling story.
Sure.
Having said that though, with this story, when you watch it, you get Clamp on a video and they spend the first like 20 minutes introducing Clamp Center and then the business of it and his book and then everyone that works for him and what it's like to work there. And then we finally meet him like 20-30 minutes in, and then when he arrives in the office. But it almost feels like, because they're setting up basically, and I'll get into it later, that this is all bad in a very loose term. So the thing with this guy's name on it, he must also be bad. And it turns out he's not, but not Dr. Forster. That's a whole
Dr. Clayton Forrester.
Yeah.
This is what drove him to space.
It's funny because they even talk about how that'd be fucking brilliant. They talked about, I think in the commentary, that they wrote it with Daniel Clamp supposed to be the villain. Casting John Glover and what he brought to it, he's no longer the villain anymore. But the movie's full of micro villains. Like at times it feels like the Brain is kind of the villain because he's pulling the strings, but we're constantly cutting back to Mohawk, who was clearly a threat. So he's like direct villain. The Gremlin is like New York City's villain. Forster is Billy's villain.
Marla is arguably Kate's villain,
right?
At least her rival.
Yeah, there's no one true Daniel Clamp level villain. But in that opening scene, you could even tell, I'm like, well, I don't like this Forrester fellow, not one bit. He goes outside and he's like, "Do you hear that cough? We can wait." Like, fuck you. Fuck you.
And again, my mother's voice in the theater. That's awful. I hear it every time I watch the movie. I just hear her judgment. Her not judgment, but her moral I guess, high ground. I can't think of it. Or her empathy for the man, like her embracing of humanity and her taking this, this little comedy, so
Mhm.
seriously and so on a
Yeah.
human level. And as a kid, I even remember thinking, for me, the lines that you mentioned, I wrote them both down because I hear them as an adult. But as a kid, I didn't hear them. What told me that I don't like these guys were Robert Picardo's smarminess and the way he'd like lean on something and get dust on
Mhm.
his cuff and get all like angry and start brushing it off. And just his kind of like general regard for the store. Like, that's not how you walk into a store like that. You walk in with respect and with
Yeah.
awe and everything like that. And so, I mean, everything that we're getting as adults, it's there for kids to perceive too, but on a different level. Because the clamp thing, the thing that made me not like him from the beginning, and then gradually, even though I never really liked him as a kid, he seemed like less threatening to me as the movie progressed. But
Mhm.
the thing that I didn't like in his introduction that told me like, beware of this guy, was just his like, I don't remember the exact line, but it's something to the extent of like, I run a multi-million-dollar something, 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 and you make little things.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
And
And
that's
I'm
fine.
like,
Yeah.
that is so, I mean,
That is
I get
him
on my
at
own little, yeah,
his most, if you can say, villainous. That yeah,
sure.
it wouldn't surprise me if like they filmed that because it's shot on like on a VHS or something. But like
Hmm,
it
hmm.
it feels like maybe they hadn't really realized what the character was yet, and that was like the first thing they shot with him or something. Or there
I
was,
wouldn't be
or
surprised.
there's not
Yeah.
enough in that scene for him to bring all that. But you need that energy for that scene to work.
Exactly.
But that scene to me is like when I leave that scene, based on what they wrote and based on what Robert Carter brings, the impression I get is don't
Yeah.
trust this guy.
Grouchy, horrible,
Yeah,
heartless
and
human
also,
being.
and even
Yeah.
in the first scene, it's Confucius or Bruce Lee.
Yep.
Everything goes and drops. He takes Billy's plant and he drops it, and he goes, "Here's," he talks about authorized art. Everything. You ever notice a lot of the things he says go down here? It all just, and that to me is just everything about him is
Uh-huh.
shitty attitude. Is
Condescending.
yeah,
Yeah. Working in a multi-million-dollar flea market.
yes,
Drop.
yeah. I would love it if if I ever got if you got a hold of his script and all of his highlights,
Have
they
like
all
an
have like
arch.
a little arch at the end of certain sentences. Oh my god.
Even among his last lines when he's on the phone with Clamp in the bathroom, he's just like, "Thank you, sir. A half day off as soon as the building is operable." It's still lit. I never thought of that. That's amazing. Please keep the TV.
Exactly. That
Oh, terrible.
it's such
Yeah.
a
No.
choice. It's such a yeah, and he's nothing like that in like inner
No.
space or fucking Star Trek and
Well, I was
yeah.
set up for him too because he played the gym teacher, kind of like an ornery guy anyway in Wonder Years. So I got used to
Mm.
seeing him be difficult with Fred Savage, who was another kind of like, Billy Peltzer was Fred Savage's character. Kevin, whatever his last name is, in the Wonder Years was another kind of like odd avatar for me. When I'd watch it, I'd just be kind of like, I'm like that kid because he has big brown eyes and big bushy, brown hair like me. So I was ready for Robert Picardo to be a big old jerk. I think that most of the roles I saw him in before his later work were jerky roles, but I knew he was funny. That's the thing. I always knew it
Oh yeah.
was in a comedic vein. So I didn't like hate him or anything. Whenever I found out he was in something, I'd be like, Robert Picardo, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. But
And while we're talking about him, like, so I've noticed this over the years that
yeah,
like anytime you have a movie that you're making, it will instantly get better if you put John Glover in it.
yeah.
He's kind of a fact. Because you could like, I wonder if they did rewrites because I can't imagine some of these lines were originally written that way. But the thing I love about him, because it's so in the text and in the production design that he is Donald Trump with a little bit of Ted Turner, the Ted
Sure.
Turner with the Clamp Network, but between the name and the building and the real estate and
Hmm.
the even just the cover of his biography, like
Mhm.
it's all Trump,
Yes.
except in performance.
Yeah.
Um, and I love that he has like a childlike energy without being actually childish.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let's do some memos,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so we could have like it's very it's there's an ego there's he's very blind to like how selfish he is, like, oh, they could throw like a parade, but we
Yeah.
get the dragons. But I love the childlike energy of, he's coming around the office, just go back, but he sees Billy's work, and he's like, oh, what is like, it's the same energy if I
Hmm.
saw like the fucking Castle Grayskull at Toys R Us, like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
and
Yeah.
I and there's so many instances of just because yeah, he's kind of dumb, you know.
Yeah.
But I love,
Out of
like,
touch. Out of
my favorite
touch.
is my favorite one is for when Forrester calls him at the end. He's like, "Wow,
Hmm.
Forrester, where are you? Wow, way up there? Like,
Yeah.
it's this tall building. You have many floors, and you should, but wow, way up there."
I also think, like, I mean, he
He's so
walks
excited to
an
use his little escape thing. Like,
yeah, yeah. I
oh, I
finally get
love
to
him.
use my but I really appreciate him walking the line, because I do feel like he's certainly playing yeah, there's something I should have like, something kind of like boarding school trust fund boy, first day of school kind of thing. Earnestly wants to make friends but is socially inept.
And
Like, so it's a
something
good
his
thing.
upbringing, no matter the success he had, like, kept him
Yeah.
permanently in a little bit of the same state.
Yeah,
Uh,
within a bubble, and he's just kind of
yeah,
stayed that way. And because he is Daniel Clamp, nobody's ever going to get close to him. So nobody's, because I remember thinking, again, as a kid, feeling cinematically when we get introduced to his office. I know it's supposed to be a joke, but I remember feeling yeah. I mean, you can see
clouds.
the clouds are at the bottom half of the windows. You can hear planes
Yeah,
as though they're like going right by his level of the building. So wow, way up there, yeah. But the fact is, he's lonely and he has no mobility. He's just kind of trapped up. And I know, poor little rich boy, but that's what he's playing.
he
He's playing
is
this man who's just kind of like, that's why he's so excited to do memos,
right.
because what is
It's
he going to do otherwise? He's going to look through his telescope, wander
and
around, check out his shoe.
puts his
Yeah.
hands in his pockets and does this mopey little walk. And
And
again,
again, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, but like all these things on paper, you could have a grown man looking at a telescope, be bored, go do memos. It's the cadence with which he does it. This
Mhm.
childish, like, I'm bored. Like
Yeah. So
that's
it's not so heavy-handed. It's not. I'm guessing he dodged. Like, kind of. I remember talking about Pat Hingle being up for the Hoyt Axton role in Gremlins, but he was so dogged and so world weary and everything. And they were like, we don't. That's not the movie we're making. We need a fast-talking salesman. And they got Hoyt Axton and put him in there. Got John Glover, put him in here.
yeah.
Because if you get somebody playing loneliness, like, I mean, you could be lonely. Just don't play it. And also, yeah, give yourself, like, transpose the key, like, do it like, yeah, like, again, like, or preppy boy
Yeah,
who who's got, who's just kind of like, well, I guess I better do something. I mean,
but so
it
much
is
of
my
the text
business.
is there.
huh.
Like, but so
But
much
yeah,
of the
but I
text
remember
is
as a
there.
kid
It's
thinking,
his
I remember
performance.
as a kid thinking, it's like Ebenezer Scrooge, it's like
I
he
forget what
hasn't reached that point yet, but he's isolated, and I felt it, and it worked for me in a great way.
he's not as evil as Scrooge, but forget what the first part of the line is, but they're explaining, and we're like, well, we need you to go out there because to save the city. He's like, oh, I like that. Like, businessman save city. I like that. Good. I guarantee you
Everything is an ad
that's
campaign, yeah.
but that line on paper performed by any other person could be like, oh, I like that. Yeah, businessman save city. I like that. Good. And make
Yeah.
it more of a villain. It's the
No,
same
he's
line, but just
yeah.
infused with a different energy.
Yeah.
That's all it
And
is.
also, but still
And him
out of
deflecting to the
touch.
media, you could
Yeah, yeah,
there's a
yeah.
whole version of that isn't childish and funny. Like, it's
Yeah.
all the same text.
Well, and same text when he's like talking about, I remember getting the joke when I was a kid and understanding he's missing the point, but not in a predictable way where he's just kind of like, and you're like, when Billy comes in, he's just like, it's awful. He's just like, he says something like,
It's
it's all
real
coming by. He's like,
lives.
no, yeah, no, these are
Actual
people, real lives. Do you have any idea what kinds of lawsuits we're looking at here?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, there's the selfishness. It's
Yeah.
definitely there, but it's he knows enough about human emotion. It's like he can
Yeah.
feel to a point, and it's the same thing. I feel like that seed is planted when he sees the drawing, when he sees Billy's desk there,
Mhm.
and he's just kind of like, that's warmth. I like warmth. It's like, okay, you only comments like that just dictate like how much you don't understand warmth. I get the impression if Billy were to invite him back to Kingston Falls, he wouldn't be able to experience it really until maybe a couple days in. Like the first day, it'd just be like, look at that. I love that. Oh, the Frank Capra. And it makes me think about this. Sitting here at Thanksgiving dinner with you and the Peltzers just makes me feel all warm. I mean, he would be so outside of the experience until he finally just calmed down. But again, we're talking about a comedy with puppets, and John Glover is giving this this layered but not like masturbatory actory performance. It's everything that it needs and more, and I'm so glad that they found him, because all of his comedic moments totally play for me. I remember just his expression when he sees Grandpa Fred. I always want to call him Dave for some. I don't know names. I know Robert Prosky, but when Grandpa Fred is doing the interview, and he's just sitting there out of the shower, and his face is frozen, and it's big, but it's connected, and he's not playing to make me laugh. He's just stunned until finally he says his line, Dracula. And there's a world where that's not even a funny line, but I watch it, I'm just like, I love you.
and you're reminding me of, keep going, but
no. Yeah, go.
On the polar opposite, I don't think Zach Galligan doesn't get as much of this in the first movie, but he gets these really great little opportunities to play a great straight man in this.
Yes.
I'll never forget it. It killed, even my dad laughed in the theater when he's playing the End of the World tape, which is clearly a John Glover moment.
Yes.
And then John Glover is like, it's beautiful. And then Zach Galligan goes, yeah, it's very uplifting.
Yeah.
Mostly, I guess it's very uplifting.
Yeah. Billy is Zach Galligan.
He gets some really dry straight man shit in this movie.
Oh, totally. And even just like playing into, he knows exactly what movie he's in, which I love. And he meets every moment, because I feel like Billy isn't really kind of his own character in this movie. I feel like he is always the straight man to so many characters, even Gizmo. But the Gizmo moments happen for me. Even as an adult, I'm watching him get reunited with Gizmo, and I'm just, okay. There is a world where you make Gremlins 2 and you take entirely too much time getting Gizmo and Billy back in each other's lives. And thank God this movie doesn't do that. It's like it takes just enough time. Like we get enough time to see, okay, Gizmo's still singing and watching TV. Mr. Wing, and then Mr. Wing gone, and Gizmo's sad. Gizmo finds his light so much in this movie too. There are so many sweeping kind of shots of him, or even just like moments where it's just kind of like, and here's the reason you came, and it's like him walking, or him dancing, or him like rising up out of the lunch box or the toolbox, just like, I mean, he makes, it's almost like a stage entrance, but multiple times. Gizmo just keeps kind of like coming in and getting the applause, but and the awes. I remember my audience audibly, whenever we were supposed to, everyone audibly, oh, like when he does his little feet walking out of the shop of Mr. Wing's shop while it's getting demolished and everything, and even when he's sitting there sad, like in his cage and everything. But okay, so Billy, I think about like just when he comes to tell Kate, the way he does it sets up exactly. It makes her response work because it's just like, so Gizmo's here. It's like that furry thing. And immediately just does like a, oh, he's just like, oh, honey, don't do that. I hate it when you do that.
To me, I even as
she goes,
a 9-year-old,
yeah.
I laughed. Like, I hate it when you do that.
Yes. and also he's got totally like an impetus, like he just wants to get out of the room. He just wants to get her to go get Gizmo because he's got to go. So she's like, no, it's very good, honey. Bye.
My favorite beat is that beat right there. She listens to the rules. Like, oh, it's good. It's very good. Fuck.
Yeah. And well, because she has because also the two of them, yeah. I that might be the only criticism I have for the movie, because I did enjoy both of them so much in the first movie. I wouldn't mind more of them.
Right,
because it works. Whatever they have them doing totally works.
If I have a nitpick, and again, it's the kind of movie that like the zesty vibe means you're not supposed to analyze it this much, but
yeah,
he spends too much time with Clamp and Forster, not enough time. Where the fuck is my
wife to be?
She's not his wife, but like,
yeah,
I need to go find her at some point.
Yeah.
But
like, luckily, he just happens to be in the stairwell and hear a scream and go, that sounds like Kate.
Like in the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Right.
Not that she needs saving, because over the course of the movie, she takes care of herself repeatedly. So,
well, I mean, she and Marla do kind of sit there in the web for a while.
That's the problem, is that at that point, they just stand there and just let a spider come at them. At one point, it's her going,
yeah. It's like, well, just make more web. Just make it so there's so much that they have to like, make their way through, and it's impossible. And then Billy and Mr. Futterman have to hack and hack and hack at the other end, and it's just,
she brings out this little knife, and then like
her nail scissors. She has like nail scissors.
Yeah, and Futterman's got a little knife. But the thing is, the stuff that they use doesn't respond. It just breaks apart the way cheap webbing does. So it's so weird to watch Futterman cutting at it when all that's happening is it's his own pressure just ripping it. So like, you don't just fucking tear it.
That's a note. That's a note. The web could have been but I mean, I still love that sequence for like, I mean, it obviously.
Oh God, the silhouette of Marla. Even gorgeous. I'll even allow the idea of, you see this in movies all the time, when the actor would see the thing that they don't see. She's walking.
Yeah.
And then she turns around to back into the spider web that's only like another 2 feet from her.
Yeah, right.
I don't care. Yeah, no.
No.
There's a lot of obviously we'll get into the cartoony logic of it, but very cinematic, cartoony, and old silent kind of Hollywood. The silhouette of her in the spider web, the brain transformation where he jumps out of frame, then we see the silhouette of him shaking. The silhouette of the spider gremlins, legs growing. There's a lot of just striking. Whoa.
Yeah. When Brain transforms into Brain, I always thought there was a joke in there, like a subliminal joke, because I had a 10-year-old brain. So I thought adults do things to try and make people, try to sneak dirty things in that maybe kids might not notice. And I felt like kind of an adult because I noticed it. But when Brain starts like, and then collapses, his hand is there, and the last thing it does, it's only 3 fingers, but the middle finger goes like, and then it falls. And I think it was just the way. Now I looked at it today, and I was just kind of like, I always saw it, but I feel like I'm the only one. I feel like it was just like an unfortunate, like you've got 3 fingers, so it'd be like, falling down and going, and then falling.
Ninja Turtles, but they're so spindly, and they're so when long.
It just looks like a full.
That's how I felt about the Phantom of the Opera when he turns around and goes. It's for his long thumb. It looks like he's just flipping her off.
Right.
It's the longest view.
But so much to talk about. But wait, I just want to close the book because I missed my favorite Phoebe Cates moment in that exchange that we were discussing.
Okay.
Where after that furry thing, oh honey, I hate it when you do that. But then he's just kind of like, I want you to take him home. So like, take him home, Billy. No. I laughed out loud this time. I just like, she's perfect. She is perfection.
My favorite moment in the entire movie is her moment. And it's not first of all, I mean the entire Abraham Lincoln speech. But my favorite, and I laughed so hard this time. She goes, I had the day off from school and mom let me go to the park. She made me a little peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I was going through that peanut butter and jelly sandwich phase.
Yes. And then
that earnestness.
And then this man,
this sort of
came
almost
up to
laugh.
me. Yeah.
That peanut
just
butter
like
and
Abraham
jelly
Lincoln.
sandwich phase.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Mine.
Sad thing is the implications of that story. Like, okay, it looks like Lincoln, except for the raincoat. And then, hey, little girl. I'm like, oh my God, a stranger in a long raincoat. Like, it's the darkest. I don't know which one's darker, dead dad or like Flasher and oh God, either way. But that also informs why she hates that fucking Flasher gremlin so much. But
no, I trust that Billy's kind of handling of it, maybe what happened to her wasn't that bad.
Exactly.
Because he's so like, Kate.
Yeah, we remember.
You know, like,
he just asked you directions to like the hot dog stand. It was just he's hungry. You know, come on.
Come on, honey.
Also,
we're just gonna.
And he talks about in the commentary. I never noticed it until this time that she was so fucking funny to him in that scene that like he'll constantly stand behind her head because he's smiling. And if you notice when he takes her away, like he crosses her head and he's still smiling for a few frames as he like guides her out of the shot.
Oh, I gotta watch again. Okay, awesome. No, I didn't see that.
There's a bunch of beats. I love him. Same thing with when Murray is coming in and he's like, you know, they got fucking Russians driving these cabs. You'll notice that Galligan is constantly looking down at the bag with Daffy.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't look at him, so I have to look away. So I chose to keep looking at the bag because he kept cracking me up. And he became like an expert of like looking at the bag, hiding behind her head. I can't fucking.
I also got to say, Zach Galligan. Sometimes you adopt lines. They don't even have to be significant lines, but just delivery of lines into your daily practice. And one of the ones that I do is just the way after Kate meets Marla, and Marla does the cute hat and walks and hurries out. I never realized how quickly she hurries out, though. She looks really uncomfortable. It's great. But and then Phoebe does what her great, like, you know, like whatever. It's like, and she says, Billy, if we get through today alive, you're in big trouble. And he leaves. He's like, but honey, you don't think that? And this is, to this day, I say great the way he does because it's so gay and bitchy. He's not gay, but it's just like, great. That just walks off. I do that all the time. I just.
Oh, I understand.
It's perfect. It's pitch perfect, and I feel that's one of those moments you watch. You're just like, yeah, I know. I know exactly. I say it at work a lot. And you know.
Yeah, on the one hand, there is a little bit of like, oh, I'm so put upon in this movie. I do feel like also though, you're the dummy who came home with a lipstick mark on your face. Do you not know how lipstick works? Like, you're a fool.
He's just a boy from Kingston Falls.
No, but actually that does. Like, I like the idea that like I think he's college age in the Gremlins 1. I get the impression that like it's pretty much been him and her. You know, they moved to New York, the two of them. Never really probably kissed any other girl since the first movie, and
sure.
And I don't think like in high school there were that many girls in Kingston Falls for him to like be wiping big red lipstick off of. So like,
no,
he's kind of explains the innocence of him. And
exactly. That's how I feel. Yeah, but I do love.
My heart drops for her when she sees his face.
Oh no, yeah. Well, okay. He did not have to lie. All he had to do was tell her that he has a business dinner and he'll be a little late. So the fact that he lied, I think that tells me like he's trying to fit into the big boy britches that he thinks to with business and everything, but just doesn't have the wherewithal to put it together. Like, I was kissed on the face by a woman who wears deep red lipstick.
No, but he's lying before he even goes, and that's my problem.
I know, yeah. When he's telling her the rules and everything.
I think it's just one of those things where, like, you know, they make her out. I mean, especially when she's like, "Well, let me go get ready." She comes back a second later with her Jessica Rabbit, like Marlene Dietrich cigarette. It's like, Yeah, I'm not gonna tell her I'm going to dinner with that. Even though you can trust me, like there's still that like yeah, you should be beyond your wife's jealousy. Or
He's
but
Billy's from another time, like,
yes,
and another place.
she is
But
his boss. But I mean, but he's right though, because she is gonna put the moves on him. Like she
yeah,
she I mean, she's not a threat to their relationship.
no, no.
He is attempting to be, and he is right to appreciate.
That's why I like where Marla lands, because even though I mean, she's already kind of made her peace with Kate, but they really seal it for like the post movie thing for anyone who was worried, like, nah, but she had her eye on Billy. She might try something again later. Then Clamp sees her and it's like, you work for me, don't you? And I love her cadence, just like,
Oh yeah.
yes, sir, very, very hard.
Yeah.
And she ain't gonna be looking at Billy anymore. She's not gonna be bothering him.
Well, everything
Everything's
about
good.
her is about the job, but also growth and moving up. And that is the
Yes.
ultimate. This is like everything her character has been set up for. Is moving up
Yeah.
and you the next position, and like, oh, he called you Bill. Like it's all about.
Yes.
So the second
We'll
this
discuss it at
window.
dinner. I just love her little kind of fast talking New York thing
Oh my
that she's
God,
got
it's so
going on.
good.
I mean, I remember that was one thing I remember from the trailer that showed a little bit of the clippage, and you don't see it in the movie. That's why it stands out to me, because I remember thinking, because it's on Gizmo in the movie, where the drawer's opening and Gizmo's inside the drawer, and she's talking to him, and she says, "You're keeping some kind of pet in there," but you actually get to see her face in the trailer, and I remember I fell in love with that because I already knew her from 16
16
Candles and
Candles.
from Who's That Girl. Yeah, and Who's That Girl is like one of my I don't have guilty pleasures, but that might, because the world hates that movie, that might be one of my just because maybe shame ridden pleasures. I just get grief. I just get grief for loving that movie. I love it unironically, but anyway, and I love her in it because she's a completely different character. But so yeah, just watching her run around and just like, Billy, do me a favor, do better. I could quote her forever. She's another one
trapped in the
like,
webs.
more of her, more
so
of
much
her, more.
I love her trapped in the webs
in this movie.
and
Yes,
she says it so fast, but she's like, I think if you come in, it could be therapeutic.
No, yeah, no. She says, okay. It's like, okay, I'll be okay. It wasn't 100% entirely and completely business. I'll be honest with you. A cathartic openness thing. I did have designs on him. I didn't get to first base. Okay, or satisfied. It's just like, it'll do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I always thought that her and Forrester should team up, even though Forrester is bastard. But they both, like, everything Forrester talks about is through the prism of business. Everything she talks about is through the prism of her business. Like they're very like-minded. He goes, they're talking to Dr. Catheter, and he's like, like, well, your lease isn't getting renewed. Like,
yeah.
Everything is through the prism of the job, and everything she talks about is job advancement. I'm like, man,
yeah,
these two need to get together.
No, but I like Clamp better for her.
I'm just saying they throughout the movie they have the same goals.
Yeah, but there's no chemistry between them. Like, they don't play the chemistry. I mean, I guess all they'd have to do is play it. But because she's just sitting there, just like tense around him, I'd worry about her just being tense around him all the time.
Sure, I'm just doing that simple thing of like, they're so alike, they should date. But like, they get to the science lab, and he's like, this is a complete failure of management. Like,
yes,
everything, not what the fuck management. Like,
no.
We're not going to renew your lease.
Or whatever they are, they have to respect the chain of command.
Exactly. And these gremlins are running around, and clearly she's missed out on all of it because we don't see her until like the last 20 minutes. She's walking down a hallway saying,
"Yeah,
the lights in my office are fucking dark." Everything is still about work and deadlines.
Yeah.
Even in the middle of people dying in her building, it's like, hello, can I get some lights? Like, I have a fucking deadline.
Like, we encourage you to keep working, and you will expect me to do it in the dark. Is that it? And I'm just like, yeah.
And one of my little things is Clamp promotes her to like the head of PR or whatever, right? So she goes on TV. We see her quick little shots. When we cut back to her, she's like, you know what? I quit. And then she ends the interview. I'm like, she's had the job for like 10 minutes. I mean, and I've always tried to. Am I hearing that right? And every time I'm like, no, she's saying, and I quit. I don't think she's quitting the interview. I feel like she finally got there. It's like, you know what? Like, I have to talk on camera about this shit. Yeah, I quit. Like after all that bustling, and it's just like she's really
I
not.
have to watch again. All I remember is just the lead-in. I've never heard that
No,
line
there's something
before.
happening in the foreground, and she's in the background, and they started on her, and I'm like, okay, yeah, and that's it. I quit, and then the scene. I think it's
Okay.
Billy.
As they're wrapping up like all the
Yeah,
various like
yeah.
whatevers and stuff. Okay, I have to look again. I don't. All I remember
But
is just like, where's the camera? I cannot
yeah,
tell you. It was so terrible, and just goes into her thing. That's when I lose her. But
suicidal
okay.
divine
Now I
emergency.
got to go back.
I love all the blah 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 blah, blah suicidal. Let's like 5 alarm, 10 o'clock, suicide emergency. I'm giving it all up to have dinner with you.
Yeah, right. The archery channel.
Here's one of the things, yeah, which I love. That fuck, there's like a Mad Magazine level. Like when I was a child, I'm like, oh my god, the revelation of like it's a Looney Tunes brought to life, like the
Yeah.
pacing, the level
Yeah.
of gags, even that Warner Brothers self-awareness with the tattoo and the Batman logo is very Looney Tunes. But as I got older, I'm also like, there's some Mad Magazine shit, just like the Archery
Totally.
Channel and this disgruntled Robin Hood.
Yes. And when I can't remember who's coming out of where. Somebody's coming out, but we're panning to something, and we're right by the Archery Channel sign, and it's the sign at the other end of the hall, and it's the safety channel, and somebody is helping someone in like a body cast limp out of the safety channel studio.
It's very Zucker Abrams. It's very Mad Magazine. And it works. I don't think like I don't think Joe Dante gets enough credit as a comedic director. And I kind of fault because I mean, to me, there's no denying he has a voice. You can watch Inner Space, Explorers, and Gremlins, and Small Soldiers, and The Burbs, and you know it's Joe Dante. And a lot of his movies play in sci-fi or horror with a comedic slant. But like this movie reminded me of like, no, but he has a comedy voice, and he works with smart editors who, like, I don't think he could be credited as one of the better comedic directors, and I often associate him more with sci-fi fun, horror fun, but fuck, he is funny.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean,
even the way he discusses it.
Discusses what?
Even the way he discusses comedy, like I was watching the deleted scenes with commentary. It's just like he'll sit there and watch it for a few. He'll tell the story, and then he'll sit there and watch it for a few seconds and go like, "Actually, it's a pretty good bit. I can't believe we took it out." And just like, just like I don't know, making things that he thinks are funny, which is what comedy requires. Make things that you think are funny. Don't make things that you think other people are going to think are funny.
I've still never seen Looney Tunes back in action, but I remember at the time being so excited because if you look at The Howling, and if you look at like his segment in Twilight Zone, there's always been a Looney Tunes vibe to his stuff when he wants there to be. And I remember thinking, this is the most brilliant choice of a director ever. And I never saw it just I mean, I was very influenced by reviews, and I've still always wanted to check it out. But I heard that it was like a case of, it's a very like there's one sequence that's very Joe Dante Looney Tunesy, but the whole movie he is not really getting to do it. And I heard like he might have been limited and in a way that, say, with Gremlins 2, where he had complete just do whatever the fuck you want.
Yes.
And it sounds like with Looney Tunes Back in Action, he didn't get to do that, which is a shame because when he's allowed to, you get a live action Looney Tunes movie. It's called Gremlins 2. Yet the Looney Tunes movie didn't get to be that.
No, it's the thing. It's the same thing over and over again. Many directors have had this said about them where it's like, well, there's that project where it just doesn't work. And you can tell somebody meddled in too much, too many voices, too many cooks. And then you're just kind of like, why hire fill in the
Exactly.
blank if you're not going to allow them to thrive and to tell the story, because it's only going to work if you let them tell their story. um
And
it's funny because I'm thinking, yeah, go ahead.
no, I just going back to some of the level of Looney Tunes and Mad Magazine stuff. There's the frames are so filled with little bits of
Hmm.
information and just little, like, you could have you could have a gene splicing thing and just let it be that. But the fact that it's not only is it called Splice of Life,
Yeah.
but I love that the abbreviation is SOL,
Yeah.
which flew over my head as a kid. And what also flew over my head as a kid is that their catchphrase, their slogan is designer jeans. Like, and the movie's full of shit like that.
Yeah.
Full
Oh,
of it.
and also audibly, there are gags that just like move. I literally think when Christopher Lee is walking into the lab, there's a cow with a thing on its
Mhm.
head, like so you can hear its thoughts, and then nobody tells you. It's just a bit. Somebody like it makes
I
me think like,
love giving milk or
yeah,
something.
I enjoy giving milk and that kind of thing. But and audibly again, I don't think I have any at the ready, but just the number of lines that are funny that take us out of scenes. Like the scene proper happens and characters move on, and then you just hear something else on as the actor is moving out of the frame, and it's just like an exclamation point at the end of the scene. Just one more laugh for the people who are listening, and I really appreciate that. In terms of I'm actually glad because this movie has a reputation for being over the top, as it were, and I feel like there were plenty of other things they did that did not work that I saw in the deleted scenes that were my definition of over the top. Like, and I don't know if they wouldn't have worked, but I watched them and I'm just like, I don't know where that would fit in a movie. I love the way it's edited. I love the flow of it. So I don't know how you improve on that. But there's two of them are with microwaving with Marge, and she one of
Oh,
them is at some point she's screaming and she's got fried eggs over her eyes,
yeah,
so
I'm
it looks
glad that
like
was
her
cut.
eyes are open really really wide, and that was cut. And I was just, when you see it, it looks cheap. They don't look like real eggs, and it's just like, yeah, I'm glad they cut that. And there's another one where she's drunkenly
Oh,
stumbling
yeah.
through the Gremlins in the lobby, or like just at their little
Yeah.
cafe, and the salad gremlin is there, and she plucks an olive off of him and puts it in her martini
I
glass.
like that part.
But then
I don't
I
like the
don't know,
next part.
it's a little too broad because she looks at him, she looks into the camera, and she screams into the camera and then runs out of the frame. And again, a cartooniness that I'm like, it's not that I don't like it, but didn't need it. And something about the timing didn't work. Comedy is timing. Like maybe it should have
Right.
been quicker. But
Well,
yeah,
also,
so
I
I was
just
just
don't
like,
understand why you're
yeah.
screaming now when you're seeing everything.
Yeah, right.
How did you not
Okay, but
notice?
largely cartoony, where you just kind of like have the aha moment where you realize what's going on. But it didn't. Yeah, it didn't work. But so again, there's a sense. I love the sense of experimentation. Just kind of like, we've got a camera, we've got actors, we've got gremlins going mad. Let's just do this bit, try this bit, do this bit. There's
Sure.
one with Greta after the musical number introduction with all of the gremlins going
Yeah.
down into their like laughing
Busby Berkeley.
cupboards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she rises up out of her own eyelid. God knows when they had the time to paint that. I mean the gremlins when I say they, but
It's not that kind of movie.
it's not that kind of movie. But when she rises up out of it and goes, "Hi," and everything, there was supposed to be a bit that follows where I think it was George comes in all
Yes.
bogey with a hat. He's got a lemon, half a lemon in his hand, and he just puts it on her face and like does that. And she gets really, really angry. I don't remember what happens after. I was just like, but and, I mean, it looks funny, but again, like, okay, all we need is just her entrance, her arrival. Like,
Yeah.
okay, now it's time to go to the next thing the Gremlins are doing. So, yeah, something about that cadence. I would love to show this movie to somebody who's never seen it before, just to see what they would make of it. You know, like what would they think of like all of this stuff happening? Like would they be somebody who didn't grow up with it? Like, you know, like would they be impatient? Because I feel like kids would get it, you know, because I
certainly,
did.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
also, I'm also curious how, especially like, because I was a child, so I instantly loved it. I didn't really get into it much with my dad when I was a kid about it, but like, if you saw the first movie and you just wanted like more of that, what is this? I like, yeah, it's certainly
mm,
not for everyone. If you're maybe a more conventional person who isn't, they don't want their sequels to be that wacky or that different.
yeah. But if you
'Cause,
like
I
the
mean,
Gremlins doing their Gremlin thing, you definitely get that in this
right,
movie.
you definitely do. But
Times 12.
even even there's a certain level of satirical humor going on before the Gremlins are formed.
Right.
But I mean, once they show up, this becomes a fucking cartoon. And I mean, I always felt like that. It's like you watch the first movie, and they have that one scene at the bar with
Hmm.
shenanigans. Because
Yes.
I mean, they're in the kitchen killing people and stabbing the teacher with fucking poison in his butt and everything. And then you have this one scene in the bar where they're dancing and then a puppet and then mashing them on the head and little feet.
Uh-huh.
And someone said,
Flash dance, yeah.
let's make a whole movie like that. The whole fucking movie is that. And that's and that might not be for everyone's their cup of tea.
I wonder. I wonder. But
But I
I
have to go
do
back really quick. There's one little
go
thing I
for it.
didn't get. It's just minor, but when we were talking about Marla and Billy, there's the little beat that I love, and it's not even like a performance beat. It's just the way it's handled, which is she slips off her foot. I mean, she slips off her shoe,
Yeah.
does the old foot on the dick trick at the restaurant, and he immediately like. It's not that he just goes, "Oh my god!" He knocks over the beer and the waiter's there, but he immediately fucking leaves, and I'm like, "Good, this is exactly what you do." You know, like
Hmm.
the way
Hmm.
he, all of it. I'm like, good job, Billy. Good job. Like
Yeah.
I gotta fucking go. Bye. None of it. I just respect the shit out of him. Just like you got the check. Like fuck off. Like nope.
Oh, sure.
Yep.
Oh, and there, one thing that I really appreciate, again, just like getting him with Gizmo when we get him. But I love the fact that like even his interactions with Gizmo seem spontaneous in a way, like or
Mhm.
reactionary. Just the fact that he's sitting there, just kind of like, and we don't even know what he's seeing, but I'm guessing that the puppeteers are giving full Gizmo performance for his takes, so he has something to react to because he does. He's literally
Yeah.
saying like, what were they going to do to you in there? It's like, oh, it's just like, oh, that bad,
That
huh?
bad, huh?
And then later when he a bunch of stuff like that, but then there's also like they're in the same frame for this one, but just like when he has him in the door, he's just like, okay, now you gotta hide there, or else they're gonna take you back and they're gonna put you in that lab. You don't want to go back there, do you? He's like, all right. Like, no. So, and he just goes, I mean, just tiny little like makes it completely believable and sells me on the authenticity of like what I'm watching. It's just enough heart and enough of a pulse for me to really embrace the madness that comes. And another example of that is Robert Prosky as Grandpa Fred, because sometimes when you watch it with taking notes and everything like that, you watch it through a different lens and you start to really realize how much you appreciate things. And I really appreciate Robert Prosky's introduction once Billy comes on the set.
Oh yeah.
And he's still Billy, like, hey, I thought you could use this for your thing. Isn't it great? And it's just, it's a bat on a
Yeah.
string, but
Put it in
it's
the bag.
but yeah, right. But he's there. He's still that peppy kid who's trying to like,
Yeah.
just like improve people's lives. And New York hasn't gotten to him yet and everything. But I love the fact that Robert Prosky delivers essentially this soliloquy.
Yes.
Like if
And
we
the
were in a
movie's
theater, the
mood.
cone of light would find
The
him and he
mood
would just
changes.
yeah. And the thing is, there's one thing I got to see Robert Prosky in a play on Broadway called Democracy. When I found out he was going to be in it, I was like, oh, because it was an entire panel of incredible actors, but he was one because he's one of those effortless actors. Like in everything that he does, he's one of those character actors who like is in everything. But in this movie, what stands out to me is him playing again like a weariness that gets my heart enough. Like I want to see him succeed. I want to see when he starts talking about his dreams about like, I thought I was going to do news, but no, the people who watch, this aren't scared of the wolf man. They're scared of sobriety and, finding work. And yeah, in the hands of the wrong actor, it doesn't work. It could feel cliched or it could feel like a downer, but it's enough. And even to the point where he punctuates it with, all I have is a cross-eyed puppet named Igor. Oh, and he never. So then when he finally sees a way in and buys more into the mania, I love that he plays it so straight when he's interviewing Brainy, when he's just kind of like, creature, oh, is that, and he's like, is that appropriate or is that fine? It's like, Gremlins go ahead. But then we're back in the studio, which is like, I guess the question we're all wondering is, creature, what do you want? It just leans in like he's doing talking head talk show
dressed as Grandpa Munster.
Well dressed as Grandpa Munster.
And I love that he finds it because the first, like earlier we see him when he's like, maybe these creatures are from another planet or even a dimensional warp. Like he's still Grandpa Fred, and he eases into legitimate journalism over the course.
Oh, then by the end of it, he's just kind of like when Getty Watanabe's there and it's just like, I'm a hit. It's like, we're a hit. Oh, how much is a man's makeover in Manhattan
Instantly
today? Stay with us. Yeah, exactly.
I love him. And also, I love the simplicity of, well, there's two things I love about it. One, I love that even though this came out in 1990, I'm pretty sure it was filmed in 1989. So we're still coming off the 80s. And we talked about this last time with this era of like people, like young boys being friends with old men in 80s movies. And I'm like, look, he went to New York and Billy found another old man to be friends with. Comes into work and, there's Grandpa Fred.
There's the old man I'm supposed to be friends with.
Yeah. I go visit him on set. We walk around. The second thing I love about him is the fact that he's always in the fucking makeup and costume.
Yeah.
Obviously they finished shooting. He doesn't change or take it off to go walk out the lobby with Billy.
Yeah.
But also the next morning, he's like, hey, everything's all screwy. He's like, oh yeah, And first of all, of course, you're young, everything. But,
such a cliched moment, but it's great.
He makes it work. He's got a glint in his eye, but I love that the top of the morning, he's already in makeup. At no point do we see him come in and get made up.
No.
I like to imagine he does it all at home, and this is how he arrives and leaves work. And I like to imagine him just taking a train.
No.
Just not a care in the world. Grandpa,
I'm just going to work.
When he see him in the lobby, that's how he arrived to the lobby. He hasn't gone in for makeup and costume yet.
That's very New York, too.
That's my headcanon. That's my headcanon.
I can't, and also that's incredibly New York. I can't tell you how many times I've been on the subway or even just like walking down the street and somebody is in like obviously in full dress of wherever their destination is. And nobody bats an eyelid because when you don't get to prepare at the theater or Lincoln Center or, wherever it is you're going, people got to make a buck, and nobody does bat an eye. If they do, they might smile or something like that, but nobody really makes a big deal out of it.
Yeah, there's stranger things going around New York City,
like bats, like bat gremlins.
yeah, but like I remember, like years ago, but Dave Cross, and this is back in like 2000.
Yeah,
2000. But he was talking. He had a bit about New York, and he's like, I had the choice when I'm walking around New York City to look at the most beautiful woman I've ever seen walking down the street, or the craziest man I've ever seen. But look at her. She's so tall and beautiful. But look at him. He's dressed in foil and wearing a diaper. Like, I don't know where to look. I mean, there's so much just like, well, there's, that was the joke of like Friday the 13th, Jason Goes to Manhattan is Jason could walk down the street and no one would really bat an eye. That's the gimmick of Men in Black in general. The original comic was not New York, but like if you're gonna have all the aliens hiding out somewhere unnoticed, where would they hide? They'd live in New York City. I went there a few years ago to do a bunch of. Well, I mean, I went there for fun, but I did a day where I dressed as Peter Venkman from Lincoln Center, and I went to Lincoln Center and did his little spin, his little dance, went to a bunch of locations, and I'm going around all like I don't get to change at every location, so I'm in my Ghostbuster, jumpsuit, and no one's really. I didn't get any weird looks. In fact, I got a couple knowing smiles when I was at the museum. Like some security guard was like, "Oh, this dork." Okay, like
when I was going to NYU, I had to do for a project. We were doing non-binary rules kind of like projects. So all the girls in my group, it was a group project, made me up like a girl, and my hair was long then and everything. So they curled it, and everyone was telling me, "You have the best legs, and you're such a pretty girl," and whatever. And I was just like, "Okay, fun, drag, whatever." Walked from the apartment or the dorm room where I was being made up, and then they marched me to the classroom. I was not even the only drag queen on my way there.
Oh, sure.
We're walking through the village. It's daylight. There's another drag queen, much better than I. I mean, full blonde, like kind of Betty Cooper, Archie comics wig, and pedal pushers and everything. And I was just like, damn, I better up my game the next time I do this, and I did. But anyway,
good for you.
No, yeah, but sidewalks of New York, yeah, who knows? Who knows what you're gonna see? Actually, that's another one of my lines that I love that Kate delivers when she picks up who she thinks Gizmo is, but it's Daffy, and she's just like, "Gizmo, you're so hyper, but I guess that's what New York does to people." Not me, but I mean...
And then there's I don't know if the whole movie's full of. I mean, there's something about it to me that the start is when their first shot of them, going through Times Square, and they get bumped by somebody, and they're like, "Oh, people here are so rude," and I'm like, "You're still Kingston Falls people."
Yeah. Just watching them make their way through the big bad city.
Bad city. And this idea of like, they don't carry it through the whole time, but the very first instance we get of the Daniel Clamp building's technology being faulty is when someone pushes their way past her. A New Yorker is rude to a Kingston Falls person. They get in the door, and the karma hits them back.
As they walk through a regular door. Subliminal.
There seems to be a bit of, if it's Kingston Falls contrasted with New York City, this idea of small town values, America versus the coastal New York City America that are, I don't want to say progressing towards, but as technology is changing, as things are progressing, and the fact that all of the heroes in the movie, the ones who succeed and save the day, because Daniel Clamp and he tries, but the curtain thing doesn't work because of clouds. What saves the day are Mr. Futterman and Billy and my brain all of a sudden forgot her name.
Kate.
But, Kate. Marla's off smoking. The three people from Kingston Falls saved the day.
I'm actually kind of sad that Marla didn't. Okay, because this was the only other like kind of issue I had.
No, but I will say, because of the theme of that, she shouldn't help.
Right, I get that, but at the same time, okay, this is my issue. First of all, it's kind of like an umbrella issue. First of all, Kate, can you
transfer
a call from upstairs down here? She's like, yeah, I think so. Is that possible? Can you transfer a call from an unknown location, an undisclosed, and just bring it? First of all, okay, so I'm just kind of like, okay, as a kid, didn't even think twice. I was just like, they're gonna forward the call or whatever, like transfer it down to the lobby, sure, whatever. Even though it wasn't a call, he's just trapped and waiting. I don't know.
So the call's on hold.
Yeah, but it's not a call because he lifted up the receiver but never dialed anything. And he wasn't answering the phone, so there is no call. He's
Eddie,
just
you're
kind of
overthinking
trapped.
Gremlins too.
And I totally am. And
go ahead.
This is the thing. He asks Kate, and she knows how. Kate is basically like, kind of like the lady at the museum who walks you around, a tour guide, like, how many calls is she transferring there? Why would she know? Wouldn't Marla be the one who would know the ins and outs of the elaborate
Oh, because
network
she's
of
more of an office person.
yes, and
I
because
don't know.
also since she's in a place of she's been there for a while, like a hot minute, because she's been in a place of prestige right now, relatively. I mean, she's somebody's boss, but
I chalk it up to I generally think that Kate is craft like to me they already set up the idea that like she's a tour guide, so she already knows the building. She knows enough to be like, oh, we need to shut the water off. I know where to take you. I don't think
okay,
everyone who works there would know that, but since it's her job to tour people the grounds, she knows the ground.
right.
So I already feel like she knows a lot. So I feel like she's smart enough to be like, well, you know what? Like, I know enough that like I don't just come into my locker room, change into my outfit, and give tours. Like, there's probably times where I have
Mm-hmm.
to do a little more than I'm needed. There's VIP guests that I need to call up to my managers. Like, I buy it.
Okay, I mean,
I've worked in it. I know how to transfer a call, even though I don't work in an office. But like, I know how to work the phone.
so
What's
you
the
would know
shit?
how to transfer a call that's on hold in
Well,
Clamp's office
that's
down
what's
to a
weird
lobby.
though. What's the thing is, I know how to transfer the call from the phone I'm at that's on hold to the next extension that they give
Right.
me. Um, but they do like when they cut back to her at the very end, she's like, and then got it. So you hear that it's a process. And Joe Dante even mentioned in the commentary that there was originally like an explanation, and he's like, they were talking about the Ethernet and this and that. And it's like, we cut all that shit out. And I'm like, to me, that just makes her. If John Connor can fucking hack an ATM with a keyboard and like a credit card thing, then she can
Yeah.
transfer a fucking call.
It was just
To me, that makes her like when her boss needs help, like, oh, we need to talk to so and so because so and so is coming at 4 instead of 2. How do I? Does anyone know? And then like, get Kate. Kate's the one who knows how to do the thing for me. She's the one that they call on in her department because she knows the phone shit.
I kind of just wish again,
I'm
maybe
doing the work here, but
yeah. I think if I had my druthers, I don't wish like the movie. I love the movie I have, but
it'd be a nice
if I had my
payoff.
druthers, I remember thinking like, there's very little that either Kate or Marla get to do. I wish Kate got to do even more than transfer the call, and I wish Marla got to do more than smoke and hold the box and squint.
But it's
Well,
very simple. But if it's a very simple operation, and within that operation, Murray holds a hose, she transfers the call, Billy holds a phone up. They all do their part, and she probably does the most important part. So
protects Gizmo.
she transfers the call.
You're okay. You're talking about Kate.
Billy
Yeah.
holds a device. She
But he
makes
had the
it
idea.
all happen.
But he had the idea. I mean, I guess it's kind of cool if, the old school crew comes back and they're the ones who win the day and everything. But also, I think it's also the fact that because of Mr. Futterman, Murray, the fact that he has not changed, the fact that he comes into the apartment and immediately starts with his xenophobic comments
I love it.
over again. Like he says, he talks about the Russian guy driving the cab, but he also talks about when they say they're going to be fumigated. He says there are weird foreign bugs flying in the country, and I'm like, oh my god, you have learned nothing.
Yep.
And that character might not learn anything, but the fact that he is such a champion, and he wasn't in the first movie, I find it mildly upsetting.
If they had made another sequel like in the late 90s, he'd be talking about like Africanized bees and Mexican immigrants. Like it's
God.
And then if they made it now, good lord.
No. I don't need Mr. Futterman today. I don't.
I have a bad feeling Mr. Futterman would have been storming the Capitol.
Oh my god. Oh god. I'm gonna need the rest of the night to recover from that image. No, because he's just home with Jackie Joseph.
I'm just saying that to make you feel bad.
Murray and Sheila are too old to get into all that.
I want to go over just a few little things.
Yes.
Little tiny bullet points. Again, going back to Joe Dante and the comedy stuff. I absolutely adore everything about a Canadian restaurant.
Yeah, totally.
And the decor.
Yeah.
and the waiters dressed as Mounties,
Yeah.
and that they're drinking Jolt and Molson,
Yeah.
and the payoff to everything, the chocolate mousse.
Yes. May I cut you an antler?
It's like another Molson, eh? And you hear
Yeah.
like, party of six, eh? Like all that shit. All of it. All of it. All of it.
How about some horn?
Yeah.
Also,
also,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, just the exchange between Billy and because this is also a good juxtaposition between like the New Yorker life and Billy's Kingston Falls mentality. Is just like he's gone there to talk and share things about himself, and she's not there for that. And so he just says like, well, it's all started when I was a kid and I had a box of crayons. Like crayons, I had crayons too. Only when I was a little girl, I was using them to write memos to the other children. Even then, I knew. And there's Billy just like a lump on a log, just like, wow, that's really great. So I appreciate that. Sorry, go on.
I already told you the funniest part to me is the
Yeah.
and jelly face. But there's a beat in this. It is again. It's so Looney Tunes. I die every time. The gremlin who's just now wearing the secretary's fucking sweater or jacket and is fighting with Daniel Clamp, puts his foot in the shredder and he goes, like he takes that pause. I love when someone jumps off a cliff, pauses, looks at the camera, and then drops. Yes. I love me a good, and his little lips go.
Yeah. Yes, it's great. Also, well, attention to detail. We haven't even mentioned Rick Baker, but I love the fact that after the coffee line, you see that gremlin laugh, and it's got like alien, like Sigourney Weaver alien drool like on its teeth, like, and I was like, the attention to detail. I mean, again, I've already mentioned in the first pod for the first Gremlins movie, how much I appreciate the work into those Mogwai and those gremlins with an organic look. The thing is, this is, if less organic, certainly as, if not more ornate in the design. And you can literally see kind of like, every freckle or marking and the texture of them, they look sculpted. And even when you look at kind of like the basic molds, I think there's about 2 or 3 basic gremlin molds that you see repeated throughout in the kind of like disposable, no, not disposable, but like the non-named gremlins. And even those are painted differently. I noticed different things about them at different times. And that one I remember noticing the teeth and even the ears. There's something about the way they're shaped and the way they arch up and everything. And it looks bigger. It kind of, I don't know, there's something about the size that troubles me. It's scary.
He scaled up the Mogwais. I know that by a little
bit. Yeah. But that's the thing, is I appreciate, of course, the ornate, like, the veggie gremlin and the spider gremlin and the bat gremlin, and like all the different directions they go in with the design. But because you really, that feels kind of like artistry, and like a kind of artistry that you can only really appreciate in a movie like this, where there are so few boundaries. And I do, but like I said, I even appreciate it in like the characters who don't have maybe a singular moment, but don't have like a singular persona that we recognize that isn't associated with that moment. Like, like the little gremlin that comes in and blink blink when the Phantom of the Opera gremlin is playing the organ and everything like that. I don't ever look at a gremlin and go like, puppet. I'm always, they seem, there's something so incredibly specific about what a gremlin is and what their makeup is. And I love that there are 2 movies that perfectly capture, maybe it's because of Joe Dante. I wonder if they made a 3rd one, if they'd be able to kind of recapture that gremlin feel. I would never want to go to a gremlin movie or see the series that's coming up, and like be like, that's not a gremlin. A gremlin would never do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious. Yeah, the thing about that, from what I understand about the Gremlin show coming out, is it's not for us. Like it is for kids, and it might be the kind of kid show that you can enjoy. But I know it's definitely aimed towards kids.
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't. No offense to I forget who worked on the first Gremlins, but I mean,
Me too.
I mean, time and money allow, but this is like a light year jump forward. I think they mentioned the commentary when they were throwing things into the microwave. He's like, I'm so impressed that they're able to grip and throw something, because we couldn't have done that in the first movie.
Right.
Like, this would have been impossible. But I know it's done with but when you look at Gizmo dancing, and it's the wide shot where he's composited in, it's just a rod puppet that, you know, people are puppeteering. But the fact that they like get his shoulders to move, he can do this.
Yeah.
Just little things. Yeah, I don't have anything new to say aside from the fact that Rick Baker's God. The designs on this are outstanding. And the little new things that he brought to it, aside from just new designs, but like they wanted to show them growing in their back. It's absolutely disgusting. I love that the eggs become really goopy when they break
foamy and
sludgy.
Very different. Very different.
It's no secret. I'm not getting into history, but just like the very basics of like they offered it to Rick Baker, and he's like, I don't know, I don't want to do someone else's thing. And they're like, well, but what if you could do your own thing? Like, not only do you redesign them, because at that point in the script, there was no splice of life. So then that whole thing grew out of that. Very huge blessing. I don't know how many times like Rick Baker gets to have like story input, but I mean, he got to a co-producer credit, and he got to give us some of the best stuff in the movies because of him. So, which reminds me, speaking of the variant Gremlins and all that, having Christopher Lee in this is just a miracle, like a godsend of joy. Every line, just, you know, this, you know, I need more germs, you know. Like everything. I think I read that like originally he wanted to play it zany, and they're like, no, we actually need you to bring a little more of this. And they even brought him to the set, just like, this is your environment. And this helped inform like, this is what we kind of need you to be. He has it's a line that just I didn't even register when I was a child, but I got older, and when they're like, well, what happened to the, you know, the lights? Well, they broke all of them. He's like, well, do you have any like flashlights? He's like, no, but I do have some small assault weapons. What? And I think my favorite for him, small assault weapons means they have fucking Uzis. And then I remember thinking,
where are the big ones?
Fuck do you need? And he even goes like, well, I've got an ordinance here that could stop a puma. Like, I know they have some animals in their lab, but like, at what point does he need to shoot a full speed running puma in his lab? It is so fucking absurd. And I love the commitment to which he's like, yeah, the ordinance could stop a full speed puma.
Yeah. No, he's got, again, that incredible commitment to the material that sells it, but knows where the jokes are. One of my favorites is, all we have to do is let them eat 3 or 4 children, and it'll be the most appalling publicity.
Again, everyone who works there understands the business. But I love that even he has his own little arc, because he talks about, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then Gizmo, we're going to do this, which means we'll have to cut you. And then when all hell's done, broken loose, it's the scene where the film breaks. He actually talks about like, oh, we fucked up. There's some things that man was not meant to splice, and and how he's not going to do this again. And like, I think he even refers to like not causing harm or pain to an animal. Like, oh, you had a little arc. You were gonna like cut Gizmo, and it was, you know.
Doesn't he walk into frame going, the horror? The horror.
Yeah, he's doing a whole apocalypse now. But he goes from wanting to cut Gizmo to like not wanting to harm another animal.
Yep. Well, it's interesting. Oh, you just made me draw a parallel between him and Deagle, because in an odd way, just because it's not an arc, but it's just maybe her happenstance of conscience coming when she's looking outside. She thinks the gremlins are the demons, and she's like,
Yeah.
"They come for me. They come for me. I'm not ready. I'm not ready." That's his moment.
Yeah, totally is.
Yeah. So
Also, do you
I
ever?
appreciate
So
that.
you watch a deleted scene, so that you saw the part where they show him like the bat, and he's like, "It's
Yes.
true that they feast on blood," and they're like,
Yes.
"That's a different kind of bat." Like, oh, I'm like,
Yes.
we had a Dracula joke. We had a Christopher Lee Dracula joke. That was cool. I'm sad we cut that.
And a lot of cameos alongside. Like he's got more space in the movie
Oh,
than a lot of the cameos. But I mean, like with Julia Sweeney as Peggy, the
oh, and the
secretary.
fucking Foley on every sneeze. It's the
Oh,
grossest, slimiest,
yes,
squirtiest.
wet, gross. It's
Yeah.
perfect. And also just like everything about her her whole demeanor, I'm just like, I know your life.
Oh yeah.
Like that Saturday Night Live ability to bring a character and bring an entire life in with you. She does. Just even the look she gives him, which is like, I think we've got flu on back order. And he's just like, I have that tissue. And she hands it to him and just watches him walk away. And I think isn't her last scene when Billy comes in and tells her the copier's down, and
Yeah.
she's like, oh yeah, okay, it's right in the back there. I mean, 2 scenes, memorable
Yep.
for life.
Memorable as hell. Yeah, absolutely.
But so
I
love
also
her. Yeah,
speaking of the also again, I keep going back to these Joe Dante comedy beats. And,
yes.
and the actual the language of comedy where beats have
Mhm,
existed for decades and they'll always work.
mhm.
And I forget, it's like, hey, so and so. I'm gonna butcher all the lines, but just like, oh hey, like, hey Martin, how's your cloning process going? Oh, it's really good, thanks, Lewis. Like,
Yeah.
that's like
Yes.
comedy 101, and it's brilliant, perfectly
Yeah.
timed.
Yeah. Those kinds of things are
How's the
all
cloning
over
coming
this
along?
movie.
It's coming along good.
And then what? But then the meta aspect too, with Leonard Maltin sitting there like reviewing Gremlins,
Mm,
which don't overthink it. Like you can't sit there and go, so the movie. Did they
yeah,
make
no,
a movie of the first? Just
yeah,
you're
yeah.
in meta
This
territory.
that once the Gremlins become Gremlins, you are now in a Mad magazine. Like,
Exactly.
just go
So
go
it's
on the
just like,
ride.
here's another bit. Here's another bit. We still have a story that we're connecting the bits, but the bits are also largely, they're vignettes. And
Yeah,
I appreciate the Leonard Maltin vignette just because I know he reviewed the first movie poorly
yeah,
and gave this one a good review.
yeah. But what a good sport, you know.
Yeah. That's all you got to do is put the critics in your movies and they'll
I
review
think
them favorably.
if I'm not mistaken, I feel like either Siskel or Ebert also gave it a bad review, but then but it was such a new kind of flavor that a few
Yeah.
years later they kind of understood it more, and then like retroactively.
Well, I know for a fact Roger Ebert gave it a thumbs down because he said it opened fine, but then once the Gremlins are introduced, and this is a quote, it was just a series of gags. I don't know why that's a bad thing, even if it were true.
Are you talking about two?
Part two,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm talking
Oh,
about
are you talking
one.
about the first one?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
like it's monsters, but it's Christmas. Like people are like, I don't like, kids obviously were like, this is great. But there are people who are
Yeah.
like, what is this movie? I don't like it. And there was oh,
Well,
now I understand what this movie is.
I'm still shocked to this day. I don't mean to hate on people who do this, but there are people who hold them up like they were beacons or something like that because they got them into film critique and looking at criticism of cinema, like seriously, like taking it as seriously as you can and everything. That said, the fact that Roger Ebert was his contribution to cinema beyond his reviews was Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, which is
Don't
one of
talk
the
shit.
most. I'm not talking shit about it. I'm
Okay.
saying it is one of the most outlandish,
Uh-huh.
insane things
Uh-huh.
that was ever created and put on
Mm-hmm.
screen. Taste the black sperm of my vengeance. That's my favorite line from that movie. And it stands out because it's a great line, but it does not stand out because there's no other lines like it in the movie. So it's like, okay, you let your hair down and you made that. So then to see him kind of stand in judgment of other things that are, sillier, that are trying things that are outside the box, that aren't following, you know, the rules or the kind of color coded, like, you know, what do they call it when you paint by number kind of way of filmmaking. It upsets me because I've seen him review too many horror movies that I love, where I'm just like, bitch, get your nose down, get your, you know, humble yourself. You couldn't have done better. You know, you probably could have done as good. I like Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, but dude,
oh, I love it.
Come on, remember where you came from. You're abandoning your past, man. I don't like it. So, but anyway, Hal Henson though.
No, go ahead.
Well, because while we're talking reviews, like Hal Henson from the Washington Post at the time did cite, if we're, you know, just going into a societal kind of like commentary, the anti-corporate poetic justice of the Gremlins and Beyond Anarchy, just the general messaging of the entire film, like even in the through lines of Billy and Kate and whatnot. It seems to be largely like anti-corporate. I wouldn't say propaganda, and he didn't, but like material. So yeah, as only the 90s could do.
And also along those same, I agree with that, but also if the first movie has you know, Peltzer's gadgets and technology,
the Peltzer
failing.
pet.
No, but all of his gadgets fail.
Yes,
the ashtray and the orange. And I love that the orange juicer is in Billy's apartment, by the way.
Yeah.
It feels like the Clamp building is the new Peltzer thing. So both movies have this through line of, you know, not only technology failing, but what seems like American technology failing in the face of what's credited as like an Eastern creature. And we talked about the specifics of like them, you know, crediting the Mogwai as being Chinese versus, you know, invading Kingston Falls being a metaphor for Chinese communism invading America. If Kingston Falls is America, and if I don't think this movie has as much to say, but in that same way that like, well, America is heading this way. We're making life easier by relying more on technology. And once again, we have these creatures destroying not just a stand-in for America, but even more so the idea of a gremlin wreaking havoc on cars and planes and stuff. Now you have a building full of tech. So it's not just them like running rampant through a city. Now they are fucking with the elevator, fucking with the air conditioning. Like they are doing what gremlins do, even more so by their legacy.
In an environment that was already suffering, so you can't blame them.
Right. So, but also this over reliance on technology. Like I remember even in the 90s and thinking about, you know, like I'm a slow adopter for things. I remember when the iPhone first came out, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's great." No, I don't want to sound too much like a conspiracy theorist guy, but like you always hear about the things that like enslave us, like we welcome them, and like I just remember the first time, like it's like, oh well, you can use the GPS and you can like give you directions here, and I'm like, and this is like what 2005, 2006, and I'm like, yeah, I don't like the idea of like a device that like a corporation can now know my location.
Yeah,
and especially, I mean, this is already an option, but I think once the Patriot Act happened, like, so wait, now the government can just contact whoever they need to, and not like I'm doing anything that would require to be, but the fact that anyone could get tracked, like this is nonsense. And I resisted, like, and eventually I'm like, all right. And then eventually I'm like, all right, now I'm just going to use my, like, we all just use our GPS to go. Everything's made to be more reliable. I remember resisting starting online banking. I've resisted everything for a few more years before I eventually give in. The way
totally.
Always, because, you know, just like how if back when technology was analog and we were still relying on the Daniel Clamp version of making things easier, and when you take that away, it makes things harder. Also, when they break, now, you know, oh, it's a door that does this. Yeah, but when the door breaks, now you're fucked. That sort of thing. I became aware of like, well, now if everything's going to be online, well, then what if that gets hacked? Or what if, you know, this server goes down? What if, you know, your Wi-Fi goes out? Like everything that makes things easier for you fucks you over. I've always thought like so what I'm getting at is that when I used to imagine what a Gremlins 3 would be, because for the longest time, I'm like, you can't make a Gremlins 3. This movie ratcheted things up so much and got so zany. Where do you go from here? You gave them, you genetically modified them. That's taking the gremlin to another level.
Yeah.
And that storyline ended, so you can't just do more of so if you just genetically alter them again, that's stupid and boring. But if you do a new Gremlin story where they are born of Mogwais that are born of Gizmo and then they turn into gremlins, they're just going to be regular gremlins again. That's a step down. That's less interesting. So you kind of can't make a sequel to this, right? Because by default, it will be less interesting. And I don't think you can go zanier than this. Or if you try, you shouldn't. So like, just don't do a third one. Don't do a third one. And I felt that way for a really long time. Then recently, in the last 5 years, we've read about how Chris Columbus has written a Gremlins 3 that's more in line with the tone of Gremlins 1. And I'm like, well, for a while, I'm like, no, don't do that. And then I sort of realized, no, it's been enough time that like you can let 2 be this weird thing. But yeah, if you want, go back and make a Gremlins 3 that is a little more horror, a little less cartoony. It's been enough time that yeah, you could do that. And I think I'd be okay with that. And that was even like 5 years ago. Now I feel like there's been so much time that like I feel like at this point you could do whatever you want. I'd be okay with it. Because it's been 31 years. And if anything, I don't care what the tone is, if it's Chris Columbus's idea to go back to the first one, but I know that thematically, both movies at their core feature technology failing them and our little reliance on them. I feel like enough has changed in actual science, in actual technology, and then enough has changed sociopolitically, culturally, that you could very much, if you're looking at the Gremlins through the prism of the red threat in America, there's a lot to be said about how things have evolved with green technology, how things are still, parts of us are still relying on coal. I really like the idea of some kind of story that the framework features a building or a location, a setting that has like solar panel energy, and fear of maybe new tech, and you're still maybe dealing with like a coal mining town, and the gremlins are now wreaking havoc, and like, look, we can do things. Look what happens in this fucking mine, and there's no sunlight. And look at the dangers of like coal when you could just use wind turbines, you know? And then also like some third act twist about how do we kill the things, like, well, it turns out we have solar panels. Like, what? And you can harness the solar energy and defeat the gremlin. Like, there's so much you could do with where technology has gone. And still include like Murray Futterman kind of resisting it all. Because I know the obvious thing, the very obvious thing, and I'm okay with it. But and I know the Red Letter Media guys brought this up, and they're 100% right. But Daniel Clamp, Donald Trump, you make Daniel Clamp president.
Yeah. Yep.
You do a story with gremlins, and they're in the White House, and they're in the Senate, and going wah, wah, wah. But to me, that's part of it. You got that. You have to like the fear of like the Green New Deal or something. And the Green New Deal becomes Gremlins or something. But there's a lot. I need a third one to still play with either our technology or even just our reliance on these things, and you know, just everything. Nothing is analog, and in a weird way, everything's digital, and then these analog creatures fuck everything up. And what happens when the gremlins destroy our servers and we can't text each other now, and it brings everything back to a very basic.
That's pretty cool.
I feel like there's something there.
There totally is. I'm glad that you went here, because literally at the end of my notes I had, would you want a Gremlins 3 and what about?
For the
So
longest, for the longest time, no, and nowadays, yes.
wow. No, I really like that. I mean, because of course, my mind always goes to characters. I'm just like, well, who would we follow? Like, like,
Well, you
and
have
I'm just
Billy
like,
again. Like,
yeah, of course. Like Billy and Kate are still around. Gizmo's still around. Greta survived, so I would love to see her come back. Although it'd be interesting to see what they would do with her now, basically given like the discussion around gender and around like where
yes,
her place is in that, because she is I appreciate the very 90s and 80s into 90s kind of like lens, and also the Warner Brothers look of like, we have a female something, we've got to put eyelashes on it and give it lipstick and high heels, do everything but
and
put a
cleavage.
bow in its hair, and
Yeah.
cleavage for days.
Well, here's the thing: Lola Bunny doesn't have tits anymore, and I feel like
I
you
know.
update Greta to have no tits, and the internet's going to lose their mind. Like, Greta doesn't have tits anymore.
But the thing is, like, because also it's also the way, I don't know. I mean, I would want her back also because like she's got. I don't know if she has her own Instagram, but I feel like she must. But she's got a following. People are still drawing pictures and doing cosplay as this character.
I just got her action figure dropped a couple months ago, and I just got it.
Right, exactly. You did a review, and I remember. But the thing is, like, as a character, she's essentially like Miss Piggy on Spanish Fly. So I don't know how you make that politically viable.
Don't slut shame her. She is owning her passions and her interests and her sexuality. She wants what she wants, and don't shame her, Eddie.
I'm not shaming her,
although
but I am saying,
if she was a man, you'd say she's a pig. She's all of a sudden, when she jumps on Robert Picardo's leg, it's almost like if it was a male. Like, it makes me think of Booger in Revenge of the Nerds 2 when he's fucking assaulting women on the beach, and you're like, Jesus,
right?
leave those poor girls alone.
But it's
a power dynamic that changes, and
but also again, we're in a domain where we're talking about something that we're looking at through this particular lens that obviously the creators were not looking through. Because as far as they were concerned, I got the same feel from her. Even in this screening, while I was watching her, I was just like, oh, she's Lena Hyena from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like a woman who is just man crazy and will just and it's all about get the man and everything like that. And kiss him, it's all about kissing the man who obviously doesn't want you, but that's immaterial because he's a man. And
I wrote down she's Miss Piggy meets Animal.
Totally,
she's completely Piggy and Animal.
Except for in the finale, like Animal's never been that calm.
No, but there's also I again headcanon. She's like that when she's first burst onto the scene with her serum, and then she kind of mellows out a bit because then she's performing in a Busby Berkeley number, and she's like, and then she's hi. I think Robert Picardo just really, her first. I don't know. It's very, again, it's a two-dimensional cartoony kind of thing. We're over analyzing her character.
No, totally. But the thing is, if you make a Gremlins 3, you have to deal with all of the problematic history in a sense. Doesn't mean you have to unpack it, but you have to consider it while you're making the next movie.
You know what there's two things I'd do. And actually either one, I don't want to do both. I don't think they fit. One is I think it'd be hilarious if her and Forster have been together this whole time. But like she's so fucking over it. Like she's at home, like her hair is no longer flowy. She's just like stuck with this deadbeat that she's fucking sick of.
That makes me sad.
I just like the idea of like, but like with her voice.
Oh,
like he's making dad jokes and she's just like, okay, here's the other idea that I like. I like the idea of them addressing it by having him falling in love with her has opened his eyes, and as times have changed, he's been on like the front lines with her, and like he is like he's got like his hair is like in a ponytail. He's like your Portlandia version of like a liberal who like loves it no matter what and whatever she identifies as, and like they lean into it. And every time people are like, what is she? He's like, she's what she is, and I love her. And like
Oh
we
my
don't
God.
conform. And like he
You,
has
you
real growth.
you have to walk a very fine line because the characters were introduced. I mean, the characters were introduced as satire within a movie that was
I
presented
know.
as
And then you're
satire.
getting too real.
Because
You have to paint
then
him now as a
you have to
cartoon.
make sure you're not making fun
I
of
know, it's such
the
a
thing
tightrope.
you're. Yeah, because that's the hard thing about adapting
See, I wouldn't even
satirized characters for
I
for
wouldn't
to
bring her
make a
back.
statement. But there's a way to do it. There is a way to do it. But I
I
need
think
somebody with
two
vision to
I think
make it.
two is such a cartoon and such a Mad magazine. I
Yeah,
wouldn't even bring her
yeah.
back. It was just because first of all, what a batshit way to end the movie. Like, here's our story, and then she's in a wedding dress, and he goes the whole movie, he's like resisting her, and then he goes, well, actually,
I've done worse.
yeah. But I like to think that's the
But
turning point for him.
in Robert Picardo's performance, I love the evolution just within those few seconds. He goes from like being, oh, not again, not he goes, oh, like as the lights are going down,
Yeah.
not again. He sees her, shit. Then he starts to back off, like, no.
He turns very
He's
quick.
throwing me the bouquet. Marriage? I've always kind of wanted to be married. She's got nice hair. Well,
And she's clearly
and then he just slinks down.
Yeah.
And I've done
yeah.
worse.
I mean, I'm suggesting
Yeah.
all that, but also like you said, it's such a huge thing to unpackage, and I don't even understand half of the implications and context of what I've even suggested. No, I don't. No, because I'm just saying, like, culture. As much as I like to think I'm to a certain degree informed and considerate, I'm constantly as the LGBTQ, specifically the T part of that, as we're fighting for more equality and rights and just basic respect and understanding, and as pronouns and things have evolved, or not even evolved, but just become pushed more to the forefront in a good way. I feel like every year there's more for me to learn, more for me to understand that I don't understand, that I'm trying to understand. So chances are everything I've suggested about Greta is probably a horrible idea, and I just don't know it. But if you bring her back, you can't not address it in some subtle way. It'd be foolish to just
I
sort of
agree.
ignore it. The world
I agree. I totally agree. And also, just in terms of that, I'll speak very broadly, but not generically. Hopefully, I feel like that whole discussion of like this Gremlins 2 movie and then like making a Gremlins like kind of like for our time. How do you negotiate that? I feel like that's, from my experience personally, kind of what the LGBTQ trajectory. Because for the longest time, even while I was closeted, but then when I came out of the closet, even though we were starting to kind of like move into the mainstream, like I had Will and Grace, I had the US version of Queer as Folk, there for my coming out. So I would feel, yeah. But I remember being really upset when there'd be an episode and she wouldn't do anything gay. I'd be like, there was nothing gay in this episode. Where are you? But anyway, okay. I needed it in my face. But anyway,
you said that before.
No. Hey, but I'll say it again. But but before I do, let me just say, I remember feeling, like a marginalized member of a marginalized community, and as much as that can suck, there was also a curious, strange rebellion within. Like you almost felt like a revolutionary, like just kind of being yourself was an act of revolution. And I mean, I'd imagine, I think that's why cabaret lasts so long, because the world within the cabaret, like no matter what you feel about its moral or about morality or like what it's saying, like its social commentary, it's on the outskirts, it's embracing being on the outskirts and just kind of going, yeah, we're on the outskirts, take that. So there is a certain, that was kind of like the source of pride, was the rebellion and whatnot. So when it starts to move into the mainstream, now you have to take things that were anti-mainstream or reactionary, like in rebellion to the mainstream, and try to make them palatable for people who don't speak the language, or drop them entirely, or exhibit C, whatever the other option is. So I feel like, yeah, Gremlins is an incredible almost timeline. If we were to make Gremlins 3 now, for adults, and family friendly, but for adults to kind of like get that joke and the kids go woo. I feel like it could be a great example of like what it's like to racially, sexually, what have you, just like have things be like one way and then just kind of like transpose the key to make it something that won't make people angry. And of course people are going to be angry no matter what, but
well, and
I it takes vision. It'll take somebody with like a specific vision, and probably somebody who's a member of all of the oppressed communities.
and that's if you choose to lean into all that because times have changed, or do you just kind of make a lighthearted, fun, funny Gremlins movie that doesn't really go there, but just sort of occasionally does? Because it's not there in the first 2 movies, but also it's
not there. It's not there by intention. It's not intended there, but time has eroded the innocence of the alleged innocence of some of those jokes, or even some of those depictions. Even in this movie, only thing, because I remember I won't get into it, but I did notice 2 Asian characters.
Oh God!
One is Key Luke, and the other is Getty Watanabe. Actually proclaims the line, "I am a camera."
I'm a camera.
And God bless him. I got to see him within the last few years, maybe last 3 or 4 years. He was in a production, Getty Watanabe, of La Cage aux Folles over at East West Players, all Asian cast of La Cage aux Folles.
Oh, cool.
And he played Albin, the one who sings "I Am What I Am." So good. Oh my God, broke my heart. But and I just thought, God, you've been through it all, man. Like
when I think of him, to me, his 3 most, it's UHF, it's 16 Candles, it's Gremlins 2, and all 3 are these like one-dimensional, comedic, goofy stereotypes. I remember, at the time I was a kid and I knew the stereotype of like, oh yeah, Japanese tourists and stuff, they take pictures.
Right.
Sure like to take those pictures. Like, I mean, you watch it now and it hurts to watch. It really does.
To the point where it's endangering his life. He's literally taking a photo of the destruction of the Microwaving with Marge.
And she has to be like, hey, this is not part of the show.
This is not part of the program. And I mean, I like that there's a partnership. I mean, he survived. He could come back and just be like a legit cameraman.
Grandpa Fred gets him a job.
Yeah. Although Robert Prosky isn't alive anymore, so maybe he's moved into something else, something more. Mr. What's his character's name? Mr. Katsuji. Maybe Mr. Katsuji can move into something a little bit more, prolific. He'll be. He could just show up, just kind of be like, "I'm doing well. I'm fine."
No,
bye, folks.
We keep watching all these movies. It's just so fun to watch all these movies from the 80s and 90s, and there's now always something. Yeah. Not to derail the whole movie, but there's always some element where I'm like, oh, that hasn't aged well.
I know. Well, that's another thing. I noticed that he and Key Luke, they don't list the actors alphabetically in the opening credits or anything, but he and Key Luke share the screen. They're billed together. And I was just kind of like,
put them together.
I was just like, I'm not even going to ask why.
Yeah, because you know the answer,
and I hate it.
Yeah,
but I love that Key Luke, at least got to, if he had to come back and play a character who is obviously from another time, and like a fanciful, white writer idea of like old Chinese man, whatever thing. If he had to come back and do it, I'm glad he got a joke that made me laugh with Gizmo, just like, television again. And I was like, oh, like the first movie.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a
and
nice
he
little
says it's
payoff.
an invention for fools. Like, he's right. I don't feel, I oftentimes feel like a fool when I'm watching television. I've been watching Melrose Place nonstop, you know, old school 90s Melrose Place. Doesn't make me feel smart. I mean, it makes
Yeah.
me feel smarter than the characters,
But
but
yeah.
I,
No, but I'm sure it feels good. It feels good in here, I'm sure.
yeah.
But his line specifically for that moment is not wrong, because I feel like a fool whenever I watch Rambo 2.
It was specifically that movie,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, because Rambo, because First Blood, great. Rambo, the fourth one, great. 2 and 3. 2 and 3. And
I
5.
haven't even. I have to indulge.
Dude,
one
1
of
and
these
4 are
days.
so fucking good.
All right. Well, I have to
Well,
watch all of
I don't know
them.
if they're your cup of tea.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And there's a period where they weren't my cup of tea, but my interests have kind of shifted as I got older. And I have a certain respect for a certain kind of 80s action movie. There's a certain kind of machismo
Okay.
bravado that I've grown to really like. And the first and fourth Rambo movies are fucking rad.
Okay. And also, in keeping with what you're saying about like machismo and, you know, like it not being your thing, but then like kind of being your thing. One of the cameos that I really enjoyed in this movie, actually there were two, but I'll say the second one first because it's more in line with what you're talking about. Hulk Hogan. I used to watch WWF with my family. I remember my sister and my mom cried when Hulk Hogan got crushed by earthquake. He got injured and had to go into traction because this giant guy called Earthquakes like jumped up and dropped on his head and injured him. And maybe he just was taking a vacation, but he was out for like a few weeks, and they kept showing they would do these slow-mo replays of like Earthquake falling on him after, you know, like showing him doing his and you know, when he'd get hit the first time and go no, and get hit the second time and go no, and then get hit the third time and get all hulked out, and then just punch and then he'd win. But then you'd see him get crushed by Earthquake again in slow-mo with a dramatic sting, and it was like he died. It was like we were mourning him. It would always end, they showed it for like 3 weeks. It would always end with a close-up of Hulk's locker with a cross, because he always wore the cross, and with his little kerchief, his head rag, and with his like his shirt and something else, just like we miss you, Hulk, or something like that. And I remember my sister would cry inconsolably because she thought Hulk was gonna die. Anyway,
I didn't know this about you two at all. News
I don't
to
know if
me.
Casey even remembers, and my mom, I just remember her exclaiming when Hulk would win, because inevitably he'd win. Even if he lost, he'd get a rematch later and he'd win. I just remember when he would get on his roll, my mom would be there, like, "We love you, Hulk." And so when he came on screen, my whole family is like, "Oh."
Yeah, I didn't watch wrestling, but I liked him as a person. Like, to me, he was Mr.
Yeah.
T. He was Pee Wee Herman. Like, he was a personality.
Sure.
I
Totally.
was excited to see him. Yeah,
absolutely. So I did appreciate that, which I probably most people might not even you know, expect. But what they might expect is I also appreciated Paul Bartel, who we've already mentioned on this pod, in Chopping Mall.
Yeah.
And maybe one day we'll watch Eating Raoul and talk about it. Who knows? But
yeah, no, his delivery is lovely in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, seeing him, because also I think that was the first time I watched it, recognizing him, like that's him, and yeah, so I was just like, I love the fact that Hulk's doing his thing, and it just cuts to Paul Bartel, like, you know, take that,
exactly.
take that, little gremlins.
I love me a good silent person going.
He feels like an old, like an old timey, again, like old movie, like, you know, kind of like stuffy maitre d' or something like that. Like, just stop, cease everything.
He wouldn't let the Blues Brothers into the restaurant type.
Right. He's that character. I can't remember the actor's name right now. I do impressions of him all the time, but that guy who was always in the I Love Lucy things. He had like the mustache and he was balding, but he had that voice where he was always like, "Well, Mrs. Ricardo," you know. when she brought the piece of cheese onto the airplane, he's like, "So you're saying it wasn't a baby, but it was indeed a piece of cheese." I love that old way of acting. I want to play a maitre d' now, or an usher, or that. I want to be that role. I want to be the guy who doesn't let you in the club.
Doesn't let Ferris Bueller in. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, he's a little too persnickety. Like I don't want to be, like a rodent.
Snooty.
That gets rodent like. Yeah, I don't want to be snotty. I'm going to have to get snooty. I don't want to be that guy, but I want to be the guy who's just too, too charming to deal with you. That's what I want to be. Anyway, go on.
One
You're
day,
gonna say something.
No. I'm glad you brought up cameos, because I mean, this first.
Yeah.
I have a few favorites, but also this is like the ultimate Joe Dante movie as far as sheer just control to do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah.
But also, I've never said his name right, but Rick DeComan, but like the Tom Hanks's buddy with the bone and the Burbs and the with the bone.
Oh, right.
Is the security guard, like, so everyone's coming back. You've got Dick Miller, obviously, who's in every Joe Dante movie.
Yes.
But like the guy that works at the yogurt thing is Jason Presson from Explorers. Like every Joe Dante reference, like obviously he's much older, but are the peanut butter cups all natural? I think so. I know they're pesticide
I think
free.
so. Yeah. No, she said there's no rats.
Yeah. I love the idea of like, there's no rats. Like, it's the worst cover up ever.
That's one thing sorry, I'm just gonna just tiny tangent. I love the lead into that because I see Camp Beverly Hills in the background, and that's something that kids today won't get, but it was a label that girls wore, and I love seeing it. So 90s, so 80s, 90s, and then of course Penguin yogurt, so 80s, 90s. But I love the fact it seems largely LA to me, but I still love it that she's sitting there wondering if the peanut butter cups are all natural.
Oh yeah.
It's just, anyway, just wanted to chime there. Sorry, go on.
No, just every little cameo, every little reference. Even just like when Kate hears Marla, one of the officers she's standing by, the placard is the company from inner space. Like, this is the ultimate Dante movie. Also, going back to the Burbs, one of my favorite cameos, Henry Gibson, the great Henry Gibson, one of my favorite just performers. Who, I mean, if you give him lines, he's amazing. But the great thing about him is what he could do with silence. Going all the way back to like Laughing, like he's genius in my book. And what I love about the cameos in this movie is at any point they could be gratuitous. Like, here's just an excuse to have Henry Gibson look at and just, that's it. Sorry, no more medical benefits. Just pack up your things. Like, but you're also setting up how ridiculously serious the corporate structure is, how heartless Forrester is. Like, the scene serves a purpose. Same thing with the second you see John Aston pushing his little cart. Come in. But everything that happens, that scene doesn't happen without him. So every cameo really seems to serve a purpose. So that's not,
they're built in. Yeah.
And I love John Aston's cameo because the second he's complaining about, well, boss makes this much an hour and I come in and do this, and what he's doing, well, how much he's making this much an hour. And I'm like, oh my God, I've worked with you. I know. I've worked with you, and you know what? You're miserable to work with. And I wonder, if you hate it here so much, then why don't you quit? Like, he's that guy. And just,
but even like talking to the water fountain when it sprays him in the face, he's like, "A wrench for you, my friend." And always in the same tone, the same disgruntled. But with this, have
you listened to the commentary for this movie?
Yeah, but not in a while. So what did they say there?
That there was nothing was written for him. They let
him
that's right.
say
whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah.
But it almost seems like, but when he talks about the law of the jungle, and they're like, he made all that up, but it was so good for the scene that we like laid it over when the other Mogwais are surrounding him. But that seems like it could have been written for that scene. That's just him making shit up. So I adore those two cameos. Also, it took me many years to realize this, but I don't know, maybe about, I think the last time I watched this, like 5 or 7 years ago, when the Gremlins first start running amok, and there's like at the salad bar, and the vegetable gremlin comes out. I'm like, the people on the other side of the sneeze guard. I'm like, is that Bubba Smith from fucking the Police Academy movies?
Yeah.
He doesn't have any lines or anything, and then it's Bubba Smith and Dick Butkus. And apparently they filmed a scene. The rest of the scene was cut, so now we just have this random Dick Butkus and Bubba Smith cameo. This silent, random appearance, and I'm fine with it. But
yeah.
Let's see. I have a bunch of just randomly little musings. I don't know how much you have.
I have some little things here and there.
There's something, I don't think all the random announcements are hilarious.
Oh God!
Like, and also like welcome to the men's room, that sort of shit. But what's funny now, there's
Mister, welcome to the men's room.
Although I appreciate, because I like this, that stayed with me. But when hey there, I sure hope you wash those hands.
Yeah.
I wish that was real, because people who don't wash, when I see you leave the bathroom and you don't wash your hands, you disgust me.
Yeah.
So that,
especially if you walk out of a stall where I've seen your feet facing forward and I know where you were and what you were doing.
Yeah.
Dude.
So I need that to be real. But but the idea that if Daniel Clamp is based on Trump, the one announcement that's like, with the car with the license plate, whatever, please move your car from the Clamp parking lot. Your car is old and dirty.
Yes.
I can hear Trump being like at an event going, can we get that car to here? It makes it look like we need new, like only the best, the newest.
Oh, stop, please.
I don't
oh my God. It's too
old.
good. I don't want to hear it. You're too good at that.
And I'm not even trying that hard, but it's such a, it's like when he got on the White House, like, oh, it's a dump. Like, so I don't think they meant that line to be, but I'm like, that is such a, that feels like such a Trump announcement.
Like kind of like self-proclaimed elite. Yes. I like the silly ones, like when they think the building's on fire. The building is on fire. Everyone exit. The building is on fire. Enact the age-old drama of self-preservation. The building is on fire.
Giver of warmth. Was it giver of warmth? Taker of life?
Something like that. It just goes on. Oh my God. It's so,
Oh my
shit like that. Those are like those things. There's just audible, but like it's like face plants, but with audio, like for your ear, just like things to tickle your ear in every other scene, if not every scene.
It's jam-packed.
Yes, it totally is.
Also, it's not quite at this level, but I mentioned in the Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey discussion how I love that movie referenced the Seventh Seal. Or was it I always confuse the Seventh Seal and Seventh Sign. Seventh Seal, a movie that like 1% of its audience would get the reference. Yeah. And I love, not quite at that level, but just like, really, we're gonna, okay, I respect. I'll never forget, like, Wayne's World 2 has an extended The Graduate homage. That at the time I saw Wayne's World 2, I hadn't seen The Graduate, so like flew over my head. I love that when movies make these references that like the kids would not fucking understand this. So I love that Daffy does Laurence Olivier from fucking Marathon Man.
Is it safe?
That's what we're gonna go for in this? Okay.
Right.
But all right. And I love hearing it in a goofy little gremlin voice. Is it safe?
Yeah. After maniacal laughter, and then maniacal laughter follows. It's like, but Billy knows what's up. He knows what that means.
And I know it's just a reference, but I also like to imagine, if you're going to overanalyze it, that like Daffy has taken the time to like pop into VHS. It's like, I know that reference. Yeah. And he's so zany that I like that he's like, oh,
I like to feel like the Gremlins follow the same kind of like rules as the genie in Aladdin, in that like
Oh,
he's doing he's doing impressions of people who were not born, who he could not possibly
yeah.
know, but he's just kind
Well,
of got this omnipotent otherworldly thing. I feel like the Gremlins are like honed into maybe just like mainstream media and the history of cinema and
yeah.
television and everything.
Even though, yeah, and
There's
also,
no way they saw all those movies they're satirizing, like the
correct.
Phantom of the Opera and the Wizard of Oz.
Well, not only did the genie, as far as what they're referencing, but also their manifestation. I know they're in a building; they could be
Yeah,
getting things from stores, but the idea that they're
sure.
like they have the blueprints for how to they're gonna bomb the Statue of Liberty, and they're cutting through like all the Russian weapons, and they've got the
Yeah,
conga lines, and he's got
yeah.
he instantly has a Phantom of the Opera mask, like
Uh-huh. They they know to be sexy waiters by just like having like
yes,
that bow tie
the
but no
Chippendales.
shirt. Yeah. And actually I love that if you look closely at those group scenes, Greta is not the only, shall we just say, non-male identifying gremlin,
Right.
because there are tons of them who are wearing like strapless gowns.
Yeah, they're dressed up, and yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of like, okay, awesome,
Well,
cool,
same thing
go
in the
for
first
it.
Gremlins, that
Yeah.
stripes them
Mhm.
all.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like I just need to address, because I haven't talked about him enough, but I used to be such a huge fan of the Brain Gremlin.
Mm,
Because again, when we're coming to just like the randomness of some of these lines, his
yeah.
interview, and what is it that you want? And I love that he's like, but we're also, this is our first time in New York City. There's a lot,
Oh,
we want to go to Broadway, but we need to find out how to get tickets. There's also a lot of street crime, but we can see that for free.
yes.
But we just we want what everyone wants. We want a nice home, and a dining set, and credit report.
Civilization.
But so all of his speeches are funny, fine.
Yeah.
But what it leads me to, it's the only time I feel any kind of ping of something, but it's because they are villains, they are monsters, but they become like Muppets when they're like, we're gonna go take Manhattan, and then we're gonna do a musical number. So when they all get electrocuted and they're all melting, and then we cut to him still singing New York, New York. My heart always sinks, because he's just a little guy with a dream to have a little apartment with like a matching dining set and a good credit report. And then his little body just falls over. It's just,
oh my God.
he doesn't go on
never
TV.
had that.
I always have that. He doesn't go on TV and say, we're going to eat you all. He wants to go see a Broadway show. And he sings a song. And then he'd say with his dying breath, last thing is still New York.
That said, he's too smart to live because he works for the other side. That's the problem.
I understand. But I understand. But I'm conflicted about my feelings, but I have these feelings.
I love watching him. I think he is oddly, every now and then there's a gremlin or an instance where a gremlin is adorable to me.
Well, the glasses magnify his eyes.
Yeah, but also just like his way.
Lips.
Yeah. But I love the fact that like after he's just like in the close-up, like, was that civilized? No, clearly not. Fun, but hardly civilized. Blink. Like tilt to the head, blink into the camera with giant eyes. But I love Tony Randall's voice. Oh my God, Tony Randall doing that posh, like upper class, like, just like, because I there's a few lines that I love it the most though. Like, just like, may I have a brief word with you? Putting syllables in single syllable words, but extras on you. Yeah. But then I love just like, we don't tan, we don't build. I think that might be my favorite.
For lack of a better word, our ethnic group.
Yeah, ethnic group. But it, oh shit, I was gonna say something I don't remember. Tony Randall, but love Tony Randall, have always loved him. Got to see him on got to see him on Broadway in the Neil Simon play that isn't The Odd Couple, but The Sunshine Boys with Jack Klugman, The Odd Couple.
Yeah,
doing, yeah.
that's cool.
Oh, so great. But yeah, and he, God miss him. But I was gonna say something and I don't remember what. I was too busy laughing at his little voice. But oh, cute gremlins. Because okay, some gremlins I don't find cute are all the original in this movie, the original Mogwai once they become gremlins. I think when they are Mogwai, like even George, I find adorable with his, because when I was looking at Lenny and George this time, never thought of it before because it comes after, so it's not an allusion to them. But I'm just like that dynamic is the same. Pinky in the Brain.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, just his little giant head with his
which
and everything.
which was modeled. It was modeled on Edward G. Robinson.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
But
and once you see that, you go, oh yeah, it totally is.
totally.
But yeah, Lenny's teeth is it's all very pinky. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
And their energy, yeah.
Yeah. But once they become gremlins and they reveal themselves, like I don't like Lenny's. It's funny when he first arrives, he's like, oh, I can't even do it. I can't do it. Yeah. My throat's too dry. But it's yeah.
Oh yeah.
And as a gremlin, when he first when he's a little,
it's so goofy. It's very
no, but then when they're throwing things in the microwave and he hits George, and he goes, I'm just like, ew,
I love it.
Ew. Oh. It's gross. I can just see their.
Fair enough. I like it.
And I even though I appreciate George's resemblance to the creature from the Black Lagoon in gremlin form,
okay.
I still find maybe it's just because they're so wet. They just look moist and it's not fun. And I almost called him Stripe. Mohawk, I actually find him really super cute as a Mogwai. Even though he's kind of the ugliest of the bunch, but when he shows up, yeah.
Oh, but his little teeth when he comes out of the trash, he's like, and the camera pushes in on this like reveal, like it's a good dramatic thing, yeah.
And then even like his eyes when he's just like legs, and then he sees the food, and when they all see the food, they're adorable. But yeah, as Mogwai. But when they become,
totally crawl on my yogurt toppings. That's fine.
I used to have these little toys, these like little inch like manitos that were made out of plastic. And I think I might still have them in the garage. God, fingers crossed. I hope. But it was all of them except I don't think I had George. All the other Mogwai I had Gizmo, and I had Mohawk, and I had Lenny, and I had Daffy, and they had the Mohawk one. He was literally holding in his hands, and he had them on top of his head, M&Ms. So it was making me really happy. But anyway, when Mohawk becomes a gremlin, like I look at there was something insect-like. I almost said insexual. Something insexual, if that's a word, about their cocoons in the first movie that isn't there anymore. But there's something about him and the sculpting on his face, and the way his mohawk turns into these horrible spikes, and everything on the back of him. There's something very already insect or arachnid, shall we say? So it's a natural progression for him to become like the spider gremlin later. But the fact that I don't know, it's just it's upsetting. There's like black and yellow. It reminds me of like insects, like when they get on me and I'm like, like when you're not afraid, but something in your body just recoils, like, get off me, and and then it's off you and you're fine. But I have that when I watch him. I don't like it, and I really don't like Daffy as a gremlin. He bothers me. He's got these little weird, like hard looking, but it looks like hair kind of coming out of the top of his head, and you really see it when he's like doing the "is it safe" moment, and I'm just like, ew, I don't want to touch it. I don't want to touch it. Ew, it's gross. It makes me think about like fish with protrusions. I don't like it. So I just wanted to say I appreciate the artistry, but I don't like looking at the main gremlins. They bother me.
Well, there's one tiny little thing that bothers me.
Yeah.
I don't like once. It's funny because there's a mohawk, but then he also gets referred to as Spike. But once he becomes the Spider Gremlin,
Yeah.
and he's crawling towards Marla and Kate, and the camera is on the ground, and his little belly passes over, and you see the spikes, and it's so wet.
Yeah.
And it only is for about a second and a half. I'm like, every time I'm like,
yeah.
I don't like that. It's gross.
It's in my mouth. It's in my mouth.
Yeah. And then also you see Kate. It's the other little thing is this movie has excellent goop from when the little cocoons become goopy.
Oh, yeah.
To like when they're melting, to when the elevator smashes and all their guts and juice comes out. But you see Kate scooting away from the Spider Gremlin, and there's dried green on her legs, and I'm like, ew.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that it's wet and fresh; it's that it's dry. Like she's been running around the building for a couple hours. It's probably from the elevator. That's gross. By the way, we didn't talk. The elevator scene is superb.
Oh my god!
Never
Nightmare.
forget.
Yeah.
This is a movie. Just I'll still never forget. Like all the time, the first time I heard the jokes, just hearing the audience laugh. But she gets in, she goes, "Elevator sound alarm." The theater just exploded.
Yes, I still hear it.
Oh my god!
I still hear it.
So good.
Yeah, absolutely.
A few random little things. Tiny things. I like when I don't know if I'm brave enough to do this. I might someday. But when movies have like either dates that you can celebrate or little foods or drinks that you can do to theme with what you're watching.
Oh yeah.
The fact that she's doing a bean dip and bologna roll up.
Oh, yeah.
She pours sherry into the bean dip.
Yeah.
I don't understand why you pour sherry into bean dip. Some people use a little.
Some people use a dash. Yes, a dash.
I use a lot.
Yeah.
But one day I'm gonna be brave and get some bologna and some bean dip and pour some sherry and just be like, because her shot, like it's called microwaving. It's not cooking with Marge. It's throwing in the microwave. She's recommending something with like processed cheese food at the end to the Futtermans. It's I mean, whatever. Random little things. I like that in Billy's off. I didn't notice this until this time. There's a shot when Billy's at his desk where he's sitting back down after talking to Marla, and on the little shelf next to his desk and above it, there's paper, and wedged in there is a DC Comics Firestorm comic, and I'm like, he still reads comics. I like that.
I didn't notice that. Yeah,
he's still a little comic book nerd in New York, and I like that.
Yeah.
Never noticed that till right now. Even as a kid, I've always had a hard time. Like, I never understood Mr. Wing. He's dead. Gizmo's all alone, and for some random reason, he's got an armband that's red, black, red, and I'm like, I don't get it. Why is he wearing that? Where'd he get it from? What the fuck is that? And then Billy, they're in the bathroom, and he's coming out of the thing, and he goes, "Oh, what's that little armband? Oh, is that what happened to Mr. Wang?" And I'm like, what? How does? And then many years later, I realized like, oh, he's wearing black.
Yeah, he's mourning.
Wang died.
I always got that.
Then why isn't the armband black? Why is there red on it? Because it's so red, black, red.
Yeah.
And like
maybe to make it pop.
I don't know. I always had a problem with it. I'm like, it wasn't until many years later, I'm like, oh, it's supposed to be like he's wearing a black armband because he's mourning. But I never understood. For the longest time as a kid, as a teen, I would look at him like Billy looks at a red and black thing on his arm. It's like, oh, Mr. Wing's dead. Like, I just didn't get it. And I thought the movie didn't do, like, obviously he's not gonna be wearing a black veil or black clothes, but like there's too much red in that armband. It's the biggest nitpick. Just get an all black one.
Okay. Gizmo made do with what he had in the store.
Obviously he can't wear a little black ribbon. Like, I get it, but like yeah.
I like the little armband. No,
I know it's a dumb complaint. but my brain just didn't understand for years. It's clearly red.
No,
I don't understand how that.
I guess it was my innate gift to read subtext
Yeah,
when I was when I was a kid,
it
because
clearly
there's something
was.
about the sorrow with which Gizmo answers and the delicacy with which Billy asks and everything, that it just told me like, oh, it's morning, because I
Yeah.
didn't really notice it when he was first wearing it. I just noticed Gizmo's big sad face when he's sitting in the
Yeah.
cage. Then when he runs and and he's getting out, I just see his little feet. And even when he's dancing, I'm just looking
Oh.
at, cute little Gizmo. There's so much to
Oh
look
my
at,
God.
just like between the ears and the eyes and how expressive it is.
When he escapes
Um,
the construction crane and they show him running just down the little sidewalk, or that's so cute. I could puke watching his little
I
fucking feet.
know.
Jesus
I'm
Christ.
telling you, I love it because I still hear the audience reaction in my
Mhm.
head. I still hear my mother's reaction. I realized I didn't get to tell you while you were talking about the ending. I remember my mother's just, oh, that's just silly. After the, and all that, my mom's just like, they should. And I remember even on the way out of the theater, we stayed, but even on the way out, she was still complaining, going like, they shouldn't have ended it that way, though. They should have ended it with Gizmo asking if they had cable, just like, HBO and all that. That
MTV.
was so cute. That's just weird. That's just weird the way
That's
they ended it.
why I
It's
like it.
I know.
Such an
Like,
absurd beat to end on,
and
because
also
you've already had your ending.
and it's also, again, yeah, an absurd beat. Like this is the way comedy works. You need, if you're going to end in a humorous manner, you have to end in a way that is kind of like encapsulates what the overall feel of the evening or the day, whatever, whenever you're watching it, of the experience is. You need to kind of like go punctuate, and there it is. And yeah, my mom just wasn't feeling it. She
Right.
thought it was too silly. She's a mother. She wanted it to end with just, Gizmo being cute and with them being a family at the end. I totally dug it though, because I was like, I don't know. I was just like, it's silly. I don't know. It's fun. I mean, I wonder. Oh, one of the Gremlins survived. Sequel, and we never got
Yeah.
one. I was ready for another one though. Didn't
Um,
want to wait
I'm,
another
I'm
6 years.
I'm in a weird way ready for another one, especially now that we've kind of laid out the potential for what a third one could maybe not necessarily the main plot would be, but I really laid into what like the just simpler themes would be,
Yeah.
especially with Trump becoming president. I think there's a lot of humor to mine from Clamp being president and still keeping him present in a sequel.
I recently, yeah.
But also the I think we didn't discuss this, but the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
It's insane that in 1990 there's a deleted scene with the subliminal messages.
Yes.
Explain me the subliminal
Yes.
messages. Daniel Clamp sure would make a good president.
Yes.
What the fuck, movie? What the fuck? Holy shit. So there's already a precedent for that.
Yes. And I recently actually looked at a post, because I think I watched this movie in 2016 during the election from hell.
Mhm.
And or no, in 2015, I guess. And I
2016.
well, because 2016 was
when you watched it.
yeah.
The
So I
election
watched it in
2016.
I can't do math.
November
Anyway,
2016, and then they take office in January 2017.
oh, okay, cool. I can't do math. So 2016, I posted that I watched it on my Instagram and even did a hashtag Daniel Clamp for president. Because at that point, I'm like, he would definitely be better, I mean, than what we got. I would take Daniel Clamp in a heartbeat, because at least, he likes warmth. He likes,
real lives. Like, he cries when he runs the little tape.
When he put the fucking thing, we hope you've enjoyed life. It's the same tone as every other disembodied voice in the movie, and I'm here for it. That comedic, like kind of ironic, almost condescending kind of.
I could almost see if there was like an attack somewhere, he'd be like, "Wow, way out there!" Like,
oh my god, Yeah, but I believe in him a lot more than what we got. So there you go.
I mean, and it's funny because it's almost like his slogan is like a foreshadow. I mean, he's already like has his fingers in so many different pies, which is why but I love that it's literally a C clamp. So it's
yeah.
probably one of the most genius little visual conceits of the movie.
Oh God.
Much like how and they show it several times. It's just right up from Grand Central Station, and there's certain times where they frame it so you can see Grand Central Station. And when they're first arriving, they're crossing the street, you totally see it. But I think it'd be great if kind of like how the Puente Hills Mall, but the Puente Hills Mall put up in 2015 the Twin Pines Mall sign for Back to the Future geeks. Put the fucking some enterprising person make the clamp sign, put it out there for a few months, let it be a fun photo location for goobs. I would goob out a heartbeat.
So would I, totally.
Fun fact, that's also where in Avengers, that's where the Quinjet with Hawkeye and Black Widow crashes down.
Oh my God.
And then they go up the little bridge to the literally it's right there. But I remember when they were filming, they built like the ramp and just like the back eighth of the Quinjet. So when you see them walking down the ramp, they literally crash at the clamp building.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Another thing about like locations, when I went to New York, the last time I went to New York, like 3 years ago at this point, I went to the Church of Saint Eva Marie, and it's so disappointing that yes, that side of the street there's the church, and it's fun to look at and imagine that there's a little gargoyle of a gremlin with wings, but the side of the street that the Futterman's on is a fucking soundstage, and that side of the street looks nothing like that. So you can't like pretend, to be like fighting a gremlin and have the same background and the cement, any of that shit. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's right across the street from like Rockefeller Plaza, and it's like I think it's the statue with the giant globe, and then like boom, there it is. So anyway, little things. Movies are bullshit, is all I'm saying.
Shermer, Illinois.
I like your reference.
Yeah, thank you.
There is no fucking Shermer in Illinois.
It's a John Hughes reference if anybody's watching and doesn't get it.
Yeah, which is
and it's really a Kevin Smith.
It's a Kevin Smith reference. Jay finding out that movies are fucking bullshit. Also, and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, they also do a thing where they acknowledge that Dogma and Mallrats are movies, and you're like, wait, what? Don't think about it too hard. Like, it's Gremlins 2. Just don't think about it.
I also appreciate Jerry Goldsmith's score.
Oh my God, I would say not like it's a contest, but superior to the score of Gremlins 1.
He gets to do more, certainly. I mean, I always think when the Futtermans come in, there's this high. I don't know what kind of
it feels like family
instrument.
And warmth.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, oh, and I don't even like Mr. Futterman anymore, but I like Dick Miller. But when they come in, and also, what is with Sheila Futterman with her like old timey like
again, it's cartoony. That's what cartoons look like.
That is like the inception of Superman. Like that is like Jimmy Olsen's original camera that she's using on everybody.
Absolutely.
But I appreciate that. I appreciate, of course, the big bombastic, like of course there's the da 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 da, but there's
some gloom and doom that's very moody and appropriate to just the right level where it doesn't take it to the next movie. Also, when the gremlins are all getting electrocuted and melted, it's grim and it's oh God, I think the score
there's bells like
brilliant.
Brown, and it's like, oh, I mean, it does exactly what a score is supposed to do. It's just uplift everything. But this time watching it, there were a number of moments I was sitting there just kind of like, this is so boosted by this score.
Oh, I've worshipped this score. Worshipped. And he has his little cameo too. He's one of the he's at the yogurt thing. He's the old man with the white hair.
Oh, I didn't. Oh my God, I didn't know. Okay, I gotta look. I gotta rewatch it after we're done.
Darn. Speaking of music,
oh darn.
This movie, besides the score, has some excellent. Like, I love how much metal's in this. That this movie was my first Slayer and my first Faith No More. Using Slayer for the fucking, not for the Spider Gremlins transformation, but specifically to the music, where the guitar solo becomes the legs.
Yes.
But whenever they cut to the Gremlins torturing Gizmo, I'm like, Gremlins have good taste in music. Like they're like I want to play Legos and trains and listen to metal, and like this sounds fun.
I always go back to the bar in the first movie with the it's so 80s, and I'm just like, fuck yeah. And then they expanded their horizons in this with that their kick line.
Yeah. That has again another little beat. It's the same. It's someone getting hit, but I love there's this crowd of gremlins, and this one gremlin, he's just like in a vest, just kind of walks into frame. I can't remember if he's holding a drink, but he almost looks at a guy like, oh hey Steve, and then someone goes wham, he's like, oh. But I love how he's just this innocent little like, oh hey, like he didn't ask for it, he wasn't doing anything.
No.
Just, fuck you guy, like you're wearing a vest, what a dick. Boom. But
that's what it is to be a gremlin. Yeah,
but they use that gremlin that's got that like smaller rounded little lip mouth space, so that when he opens his mouth reads way more open, like, hey, he's so like Steve.
Yeah. I also I love the electric gremlin though when he gets put on hold, even though I criticize the logic. But he's in there and he just starts hearing the music.
Hates raindrops keep falling up. I used to always wonder: is one, it's on hold music, but two, is it because it's raindrops keep falling on my head and like water and electricity? Like I always wondered if that's
that's what I always just thought Muzak and people hate it. Of course, Gremlins would hate it, but that's interesting. I think that's an interesting choice, certainly, to like choose that. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I also hate that. You know what? I do get sad for him though, because when they at the very end, when they release him in the call, and he's just zooming around the room, all he wants to do is just hang with his friends. He didn't know he was going to electrocute all of them and ultimately kind of just disintegrate into the electricity of it all. Because
he's going around for so long, and I love that he kind of goes up to the camera and goes like wee, and then goes back. But there is a point where there's like an audio cue that to me means like he dissipated. They don't animate it, but he eventually just sort of goes. But I didn't notice that audio cue for the longest time. So like when I was a kid, I'm just like, well, where did he go?
Yeah.
Like,
no, just no, I know. I remember the cue. Yeah, I know exactly the cue you're talking about. But because I even love, you just made me think about again performance. I was going to go back to performance. When Clamp is sitting there after the introduction in his office of the electric gremlin, and Billy does the phone thing, just sitting there, was like, what's that? And he's like, he's one of them. He's like, they come in electric too.
Yeah,
it's like they do now. Like, okay, bro. And I don't know everything about the progression of this movie. It's just so easy to watch. It's just put my feet up and just let somebody do the work. I love that.
The last thing I have, I just need to give a shout out, because this movie is responsible for one of my fucking favorite NES games. The Gremlins 2 game was this shit.
I never played it.
There's a lot of like movie tie-in games that aren't always good.
Yeah.
Gremlins, they played with the themes, but the way they NES'd them up, the 8-bit version of the music is great. You get to play as Gizmo, and you shoot the little fires from the bow and arrow, and like, I mean, they literally, you get to fight the fucking spider gremlin.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
so cool.
You get little potions and go to like Mr. Wing's shop. It's, if anyone who's played it, it's such a fun fucking game. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that. Is one of the best NES movie to game adaptations I've ever played. Many hours staying up late at night playing that as a kid.
I remember my NES. I didn't have that game, but I had my share. God.
The music was comforting to me, like playing that game and like that 8-bit music. Anyway,
you're making me really miss Nintendo right now.
Well, we live in a very modern age where you can get everything on.
I know. I think my sister has it like on her PlayStation or something. I should, but I can't visit her yet. So
I can now. I'm vaxxed and waxed and ready to party.
Oh dear God.
I saw a tweet. I saw a tweet of how someone said that like they heard a woman say that like on the subway, and they're like, "That's the attitude we all should have." Like, and I'm like, maybe not entirely, but yeah,
Yeah, should we?
yeah, no, but
Oh my God. Now I'm God, yeah, just declare now I'm immune. No, you're not.
no,
Oh, anyway. Love the movie.
yeah, it was a great. I'm glad we revisited it, especially because fun fact, you know, there are plenty of people, both in my life and just on social media and in the more celebrity public world, who were like, "Man, that second Moderna shot really kicked my ass." And I'm like, "Oh man, everyone I know who had the second Moderna shot just suffered." And I'm like, "Yeah, but not everyone. Statistics say, and like you're, I'm, I'm not gonna be." I was so worried, and then literally the day I got the shot, I'm like, "You know what? I think I'll be fine." And even that night, I was up till 3 a.m. and I'm like, "Just a sore arm, and it's 3 a.m. I'll be fine." I was like on death's door like 2 days ago. It felt like I had a fever, I had chills, I had fatigue, I had joint pain. It, it was the worst. And then it's like, let's watch Gremlins 2 the next day. Like like the next day I instantly felt better. Gremlins 2, it's
Yeah.
a nice pick me up. Like I just like, look at me. I don't have chills and a fever anymore. Like Gremlins 2, yay.
Yeah, I'd better get mine before the heat wave really hits. Like it's getting warmer now, but it is going to be
Yeah.
so hot, and it is not fun having a flu while it's hot because you're never comfortable. You're either going to be cold, you're going to be too cold, or you're going to be too hot. Maybe bed sheet, but now I'm cold, so I need a blanket. Okay, now I'm sweating and I'm getting colder, so I need to take it off. You know, yeah, it's a nightmare. So anyway, we're not talking about the movie anymore.
Yeah, so fuck it. Let's get the fuck out of here. It's been like over 3 hours. Let's wrap it up. Until next time, everybody. We had a movie that was worth talking about for a long time. It's what we do.
Yeah.
If you stayed till the end, thank you very much for watching. Thanks, Eddie, for joining us.
Woohoo!
Joining me. That makes it us. Fuck it. I'm out of here. Bye.